Thinking about it.
Are we recording?
We are live. And
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fun.
So there I was, sitting at the hold short of the runway in 1992 at the Wings Over Houston Air Show. I got Z-Man as the backup on the radio, giving me kind of backup support. And I'm scheduled to take off. The Confederate Air Force is launching, and they got to get everybody out and set up, and there's points. So they always fly, kind of planes in between as they're getting all their launches out so they get set up for their big show. So they had some two T6 Texans flying around, just doing a little formation flying. And they're going to land in front of me, and then I'm going to take off. Well, as they come in to land, they're doing a formation landing, and Lead's tire blows. So he corkscrews into front of Dash 2. Dash 2 lands on top of me, kills the guy, and there's a freaking fireball on the runway. And I'm looking at this going, well, shit, this is not going to go. So I say, hey, I'm like, I don't know, jump 3-6 or whatever. Hey, jump whatever to taxi. And I go clear to taxi. So I go up and I turn, head back to the ramp. And they come over, they said, hey, jump, do you not know where you're going? I'm like, I'm heading back to the ramp. Oh, you're not going to fly? And I'm looking at them thinking, not going to fly. And I said, so is the air show continuing as I see the crash, fire, and rescue trucks going out on the runway to put out this fire? And they're like, and then there's this pause in the tower. And you know what's going through my mind right now, right? Remember how you used to get the brief for the air shows, like air show pressure and all this stuff?
Right.
I'm like, this is all going through my mind right now. Like, does the show go on, or would this be a dumbass move? So they come back up and they're like, well, we're going to continue with the show if you're comfortable with flying.
Oh, shit.
The long pause. And my CO is Scratch Jones. And I'm sitting there thinking, what would Scratch say right now? And the group CO was Venom. And this show was weird to start off with because it never got the official level 3 approval for the level 3 demo. And Scratch has said to me, Vapor, when you get out there, if an old Marine general tells you you're cleared to fly, you're cleared to fly. Don't question a Marine general. I'm like, all right, sir. So this guy had come up to us and said, well, it's great to have some Marines here. It's going to be great for us, put on a good show, blah, blah, blah. And I called Scratch back and he said, well, Vapor, what did he say? I'm like, well, I think he's expecting us to fly. He's like, all right, then, put on a good show. So this all goes through my mind as I key the mic and say, well, I can fly. I'm comfortable. Good, because you're the only guy that can freaking take off because half the runway's taken out. I'm like, all right, Stovall brother here. It's like, okay, well, here we go.
at least you didn't have to multitask crash crew. Greetings, everybody. That is how all great aviation tales begin. You're listening to So There I Was, episode 61, and this is repeat here. Just got home from a long trip, so I'm happy to be home in New Hampshire right now. No telling where I am by the time you hear this. And my co-host, Fig, here. Where are you tonight, Fig?
Well, I'm in Kansas City for another 12 hours, and then I'm off to fly the Big Blue. However, I am happy to say what the So There I Was story was from our guest today, Vapor. Welcome, Vapor.
Indeed. Welcome, Marine. Harrier pilot extraordinaire. A little bit ahead of us at the point as you got to go to the Gulf War, and we got to sit and watch you do it on CNN. But that's all good. Let's don't go quite there yet. Let's back up a little bit. When did you first become interested in aviation? How did you become interested in aviation? And why didn't someone talk you out of it?
Well, believe it or not, my dad grew up on a Depression-era farm in Ohio, one of 8 boys. And so back then, to kind of, get your start in life. 6 out of 8 boys join the service, get an education and get started. So my dad had served, and 6 of my 8 uncles did. So I was kind of like, I'm going to go serve. And I went and talked to some of the recruiters. And to be honest with you, I was just most impressed with the Marines. And nobody in my family had been in the Marine Corps. And I had just always kind of had this thing about, kind of a World War II history buff. And I want to join the Marines. And when I met the recruiters, I'm like, okay, these guys they reminded me of my uncles. It's like these guys were like men, and I'm like, yeah. I would want to go to war with these guys, not the other recruiters I'd met. So it just happened to be that the assistant, whatever, they had an aviator in the one recruiting office, and he was an F4 backseater. And he goes to me, he says, hey, did you ever think of flying? I go, well, actually, no. I said, I don't know anything about it. And he said, well, why don't you take a test and see how you do? So I took a test, got it, and I talked to my dad. He said, my dad's like, look, you can always say no later in the military. Say yes to start with. So I was like, all right. So he talked to me all about it, and I met the guy a couple of times. I'm like, man, this thing's pretty cool. But I never envisioned myself being able to do something like that, and I just didn't come from that background. Nobody even really went to college.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I get in there, and so now I get to TBS, and I got this air contract. I'm a PLC air guy. And, 3 months into the TBS, you got your MOS selection. And Captain Nicely, who's a grunt, my SPC, calls me, and he goes, hey, Walsh, what would you decide? And I said, man, I'm still not really sure. I kind of thought I was going to go infantry. And he says, we're talking about it. And, of course, this is 1986. So what has just come out?
Oh, Top Gun, baby. Yeah. Top Gun.
Yeah.
I got dudes knocking on my door at night at TBS. Hey, Walsh, you giving up your air contract? I want it. And so I'm sitting there going, holy crap, this is, maybe I'm not thinking straight. So God bless Captain Nicely. This guy was a grunt, and he sits down with me, and we talk about it. He looks at me and says, he goes, if you have the opportunity to go to flight school and you don't go, I think you're going to regret it the rest of your life. He goes, why don't you go down there and give it a shot? And so no shit. That's how I went to flight school, because I thought I might regret it if I never went.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So I went down there and got in, did pretty well in AI and stuff, went to VT3. That back then, that was the Marine Squadron. And, good God, the Hitler's Youth, we had formations every morning, all this type of stuff. And I'm sitting there going, God, what did I get myself into? It's like finals week every damn day, oral exam, practical exam. And I'm like, This is not fun. But luckily, my roommates, Earl Anderson and Roger Pearson, we lived out at Navarre Beach. No shit. We commuted from Navarre Beach.
Holy
nice.
cow. That's a long trip every morning.
And right down the street from us was Rosie Greer. You guys know Rosie.
Yeah.
His old college roommate, Marvin Bagadas, ended up being a Cobra guy. So we're all living out there at Navarre Beach, loving life. And, because I need to get away. I'm like, I don't need to be living in the BOQ doing that crap. So now it's like, okay, this is a nice lifestyle. I like this part. The flight sucks, but anyway, get through, got jet grades, pretty excited about that. Heading out to Kingsville, and my on-wing was a guy named Captain Dodaro, and he ended up being he was an A6 guy, ended up going Delta. His dad was at Delta. He said he's waiting for his dad to retire so he can get over there, and he was a great guy. And man, he took me under his wing, and that guy just changed my attitude and just got me motivated to fly, telling me stories about, A6 guy and what they did, and just a super guy, flipped it on me. And then I went to advanced, and guess who one of the instructors was there when I got there? Remember Cal Gurney?
Oh, yes. Yeah. He was there as an instructor?
He was. He was a Bronco guy back then,
Moo.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I got through there, and then there was a big push back then, for the Harriers were starting to show up. So a lot of us went to, I went through flight school, and, repeat. I just saw you were just sending me that shot of you and Vito over there overseas.
Yeah.
And, Tom and I went through, all the flight training together. So we got to 203. And, when we got to 203, it was that era when probably about a third of your class was evening. So went through with all those guys. And then I got lucky that, 542 was getting ready for the first full squadron deployment. 331 went to Westpac with a partial. So they wanted to load us up with the lieutenants. So we kind of had that same thing at 542 that, Curley talked about with the Lieutenant's Revolutionary Front.
Right.
We put and I'll throw the names at you. Guys remember these guys? So we had like Rosie and Beeve, me, Sal, Turbo, Pisser. There's other two guys, Dana Duff, and if you remember Jamie Richards. And Jamie Richards.
Yeah. So I remember those guys from Hawk Missile days before I went to flight school.
Oh, dude,
those guys were all ground guys with me in the '84 year group, and then Jamie obviously died. It was within 2 weeks arriving at 542, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were down at Page Field. And heavyweight stoves and stuff out of a forward operating base. You remember that? And then
and he got rushed and didn't set his stow stop right, set a pitch rate, and basically flipped himself over on the dough. Yeah.
And then Dana, and then what happened is
Dana pitched out of the fight after that. He's like, I'm done. I've lost too many friends.
Yeah, it was that, and I believe it was what did it was we lost. My roommate was Earl Anderson, if you remember Enos, and we lost Earl in Westpac, and so Dana just lost two of his best buddies. And he's the guy. He walked into the group and turned in his wings. And you know what? I appreciate the empathy and compassion. And they're like, no obligation. We understand. And they let him go. And no one ever blamed Dana. He was a great guy.
No, right. All respect to a guy that'll, he's like, it's not for me. I got another quick Dana story, which this is what added to it. And some people know this, some people don't. And I may have some of the details off. But he went through primary at Corpus. And are you aware of what happened to him there?
No, I'm not, buddy.
So this is an amazing story. He goes out on an aerobatic flight in the T-34 Charlie, and you may remember the procedure. I, to this day, call canopy cord, harness, hop, and pop. If you got to get out of it, make the call, open your canopy, disconnect your cords, disconnect your harness, jump out of the airplane, and pop your D-ring to get your chute open. So he goes call canopy cords. Oh, let me back up. They're doing the aerobatic hop, and they get to the point where they need to do the spin. They get into the spin, and they put in the anti-spin controls, and guess what won't come out of a spin?
No way.
And the instructor goes, "I've got it," and he takes the controls from Dana, and he puts in the anti-spin controls, and the airplane won't come out of a spin. It is nose down, spinning towards the ground, and they come through. I think it was 3,000 feet. Time to get out of the airplane, so they call canopy cord, harness, hop. Dana hops out, and he lands squarely on the right wing.
He the guy that rolls off the wing.
He is pinned to the top of the right wing of this airplane in a spin, headed to the ground. He does a low crawl to the very end, pushes himself off, pops his parachute, and gets about a swing before his feet hit the water.
Dude, I remember that story. Shit, you know what? I forgot that was Dana.
That was Dana. So he had a really close call, and he'd lost two of his best friends, pop. And he's like, I've had enough. There's better ways to earn a living.
Yeah, kind of reminds us. Hey, you know what? You know what's on this video right now? 3 old Harrier guys.
Right? Okay, I got to tell it. What's the definition of an optimist? A Harrier pilot thinks he's going to die of cancer. Just saying.
Just saying. Let's throw it out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh
man. So you get out to Westpac. Well, so let me back up. So I ran into Vito, and I got the story from him because I did not know the story of your call sign. But so that's the other thing. This is a small world. I'm sitting at a corner restaurant in a small town called Maastricht in the Netherlands, and walking down the street comes a guy whom I was hired with 28 years ago, and standing next to him is Vito. And I said, "Hey, you guys want to have a beer, sit and join us? We're just a little sidewalk cafe." And we got to talking. "Oh, you're a Harrier guy?" "Yeah." And I know I had run into Vito before at some point, but we were opposite coasts. So, but so he's like, "Oh yeah, Vapor." I said, "Yeah, we're going to have Vapor on this week." and hence the thing here. So he told me the story of your call sign. How about you do that?
I will tell you that. So we're in 203, and we're heading out to doing a weapons net out at El Centro. And Fallon. Sorry, we're out there going to Fallon. Yep. Yeah. And so anyway, new thing. We're going to go out to do weapons and everything, and we take off on a training sortie, and it's there's a T-bird in the lead, and it's it's Ryder. Remember Ryder? And the dirt floors in the back seat. So those are the two IPs. And then -2 is Sal, Vito's -3, and I'm -4. So I'm just going to set your audience up right off the bat that, I'm a knucklehead. So we take off, and guess what I don't raise as -4? I don't raise my flaps.
Whoops.
So, and as you know, the flaps will blow back once you accelerate. So once you're at speed, they're back. So we get out there, we're doing our bombing runs, and, things aren't going really well. Sal had like a Simo run. They got him on that, and they got that squared away. We go.
What's a Simo run, real quick?
So basically, you got two planes basically are rolling in at the target at the same time. It's a simultaneous run. So lead had rolled in kind of wide, and Sal rode in a little early. So now they're kind of on a Simo run, and that's the responsibility of -2. So they're going to nail Sal for that.
Yeah.
Then Vito goes lost comm. And in the brief, we had a rendezvous point, which was a lake. Well, I'm -4, so you're in the back, so I probably have the most SA of everybody. I see where he's going. So I see lead in -2, head off to the rendezvous, and I see Vito go the other way. He's going to the, there's like 2 lakes in Fallon.
Yeah.
He goes to the other one. So I see what's going on.
Of course he does.
So I'm back there going, well, hell, he's lost comm, and he's going the wrong way. So I'm like, I'm not leaving nobody behind. So I take off, and they're like, Vapor, where you going? I go, Vito's, he's going the wrong way. He's lost comm. I'm going to go get him. And Mariah says, you guys better not join up on each other. I'm like, well, what the hell else are we supposed to do? Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
So anyway, fly out there, get Vito, give him the old, I got the lead, follow me.
Yeah.
So we swing back. So,
hand signals, yeah.
Yeah. We're burning a bunch of fuel now, extra. And right as we join up, what do? Fuel check.
Yep.
As it gets to me, Dirt told me later, he said, it's like fuel check, like 1,500, 1,400, something like, 750 or whatever. And he says, did you say it? He said, I look over, I just see his hair going, bingo profile.
Bingo profile, yeah.
So I'm heading there, and I remember Ryder says to me, how much fuel you got? And he says, stay in the ejection envelope. I'm sitting thinking, that's probably not the best thing you want to say to instill confidence in your students.
Right.
But Dirt's like, Vapor, not time. I called me something else. He said, hey, you're going to make it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Anyway, when we got done, they're looking at the tape, and Ryder's figuring out, trying to figure, how did he have, like 800 pounds less fuel than we did?
Right.
And he's looking at the run, and as I'm going down the run, it's like, when I tipped in or coming off something, he'd see my angle of attack would go up, because as I got slow, the flaps would go down and the angle of attack would change. And he's like, you left your flaps down. And but on the actual run, when you're going fast, it's normal.
Yeah, they blow up. Yeah.
So that was my brilliant maneuver. So we have a kangaroo court at the end of the deck, as you all recall.
Yep.
And Spiko is the grand poobah there. And so Spiko's the guy. I was either going to be Fumes or Vapor, and they went with Vapor. But I do want to add one thing. They called the Black Cloud flight. All 3 of us get it down. They should have been knucklehead flight. But anyway, Colonel Mayer calls us in. He was a CO, and he was a great guy. I mean, really, great guy, a gentleman. And I remember he sat me down, and he kind of asked me some technical questions, and I had studied. I knew my stuff, and he's like, "Hey," he goes, "You hop in the back seat with me tomorrow, and let's go on out." And we go out, we do flights. He gives me the plane a few times, makes some runs. Good job. We land. He goes, "No sweat. Get back out there." And so, I know you talked to the other day. You were talking to that I forget his name, ordnance guy who then became a Black Hawk pilot.
KO.
Oh, KO. Yeah.
And he was saying how I didn't yank his CDI call when I was his AMO. But you know what? Colonel Mayer just like, hey, you made a mistake. And he goes, I remember he looked at me, he said, you'll never get low on gas again.
Yeah.
Now,
right?
You never did you?
Let's say
except every time you took off, you were low on gas. But other than
when I was on the air show circuit, I mean, if you landed before flashers, you didn't optimize your training,
right?
Opportunity
Absolutely.
or maximize the enjoyment of the crowd. So,
right.
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 I was just aware of my fuel.
Right. Well, what was our saying? You only had too much fuel when you were on fire. Is that the?
Yeah, you could never have too much fuel unless you were on fire.
Yep. And should have dumped before in the target area on that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely hilarious.
We
Oh
can do
yeah,
that one in a little bit.
man. Black Cloud Flight. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
And
Well,
I
I knew that's where that call sign was coming
Yeah,
from.
Vito ended up out of 513, and he was active with guys like Bone LeBlanc, and they came ashore in King Abdulaziz, joined up with us for a Desert Storm and so on, and Sal was ended up at 542 with me, and great guy.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Are you guys
so
hearing
you
me
made
okay?
it through the rag, then you 542, then out to Westpac pretty much right away.
Yeah, we did. We got back. We kind of got out of 203 right at the buildup. So we did the 6-month buildup. You guys are familiar with that. They stabilize the squadron, do the workups. Cold Lake, Canada, heavy weapons net, and then off we go to Westpac, and then you get out there, and you remember you flew like you called 400 series sorties, which are the kind of high combat capability sorties, more advanced stuff that raises the squadron's combat capability, and of course, then that is what they kind of used to measure when they started picking and choosing squadrons to go overseas, for Desert Shield and Storm. And I always tell people, it's like life is timing and luck half the time. And I just got lucky to be in a squadron, got worked up, and then we came back and we still had all those 400 series sorties that were current. So they look at the numbers and they go, well, these guys are highly, combat ready, and send them. And so, that's kind of how that stuff works out. But, Westpac was a blast. We did, Coat Thunder, Team Spirit, classic Marine stuff. We're living in tents in the mud, flying out of expeditionary fields, landing at Chilpo Beach on 56-foot aluminum matting, sitting there on the APU, getting 9-line briefs, taking off, shit like that. People always gave us crap about, we're talking about being low on fuel in the Harrier, and
right.
Can't go far. I'm like, yeah, but we would sit at Chilpo, receive the 9-line brief, take off, and go right to your IP. I mean, we fly a 20, 40.
Okay. Well, so I hate to do this now. We got to go through a whole bunch of acronyms, though. We don't even realize we use them sometimes. We got Westpac, so Western Pacific. That's Japan, Korea.
We covered that before.
Throughout. Yeah, I know. I'm just, there may be new listeners.
Well, but there's some acronyms that we haven't talked about that
That's true.
He's throwing out acronyms.
Oh yeah, we've talked about the IP before too, but let's go over that. What the 9-line brief is, all those things. So yeah, let's back up a little bit. CAS, close air support. So.
Okay.
Try and walk back through some of those, if you would, please. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
No, don't feel bad.
Don't be sorry. It's not your fault. It's Repeat's fault for not briefing you on the acronyms.
Fig and I are learning as you go. We don't know what any of this shit
all
means.
I heard was Vapor, just don't string together too many F-bombs. That's all I heard.
That's right.
Quite fucking frankly, I don't remember half of the acronyms. So I'm asking you what they are so I can be a little smarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a close air support mission, which is basically dropping ordnance in close proximity to maneuvering elements on the ground, that's something the Marine Corps specializes in, and the Harrier in particular. That's our forte. We can forward-based right behind the troops, right behind the forward line of troops and so on. We can get airborne and provide close air support very rapidly. Because when they need it, they need it. It's not like, can you come do this tomorrow? They're probably under fire. So that was the whole concept of the Harrier. So we're based at a expeditionary airfield, which is not your traditional 10,000-foot runway, because that's the target. You want to take out one squadron of aircraft, put one bomb in the middle of a runway. You just had a soft kill on an entire squadron. Can't do that with Harriers. We'll land anywhere. So we're working off these quick mattings. The MWSS boys, Marine Wing Support Squadron guys would put down matting. We would go out and land on these things. We could arm up the planes, get fuel, water, quick intel brief, do a vertical takeoff, and be, in the target area literally in minutes. The 9-line brief is what the forward air controller uses to control the aircraft, to basically give us kind of a target. It provides basically our flight plan to strike a target. In that brief, you're going to get where they want us to be coming in from. So we're coming in on the proper angle. For example, if they're going to laser designate, you need to be in what we would call the laser basket so that you're heading in and picking up the reflectivity and so on, or to coordinate maybe with friendly fire mortar or artillery. So they wanted to control our ingress line. So that's part of the brief. The target coordinates, the target description. If they're going to put a mark down for us, whether it's a big white phosphorus smoke that would put up a big white plume, they will let us know those things. So when we take off after receiving a 9-line brief, we have all the information we need to hit that target. The last piece of the puzzle is the timing. So that we get it on time to coordinate with, we would do what we call suppression of enemy air defense and so on. They might be doing, we call front door, back door. They would put artillery in front of the target. We would come in after the frag had settled, hit the target as we're coming off, timing it with the artillery to come in behind us to protect our egress and so on. So the timing was very critical on all these types of things. And so we could get all that information instead of orbiting, burning fuel and so on and requiring tanker support. And the footprint of a tanker support is massive.
Right. Yeah.
Airports and everything else. We don't need that.
We got Air Force tactical wings when you start putting those guys into that.
And you guys know this. Here's a little piece of information that most people don't talk about. The aircraft at Harrier with the shortest legs was the only aircraft in Desert Storm that did not require tanker support.
Oh.
Why? We deployed it just the way we always said we would. We would use forward operating bases. We had quicker response time in the target area, and we never used tankers. As a matter of fact, I think Curly told you on him and Ajax, they went to the tanker one time and got scolded. Said, don't ever do that again.
Wow.
Yep.
No kidding. Wow. Okay. And then one other thing real quickly, you talked about Cope Thunder. What is Cope Thunder?
Yeah, Cope Thunder is a huge exercise down in the Philippines. So we went down there and we brought like our whole squadron down there. We were doing 14 plane launches twice a day. So the Air Force is working out of Clark Airfield. We're working out of Olongapo there at the NASQB. And we've got, I remember we had the Hawaiian Air National Guard F4 guys were flying in support of us. You got the Air Force 15s. I mean, we were putting, I think there was like 60, 70 aircraft at a time were in the air during these things. And, we were the strikers going in. But I'll tell you, the whole point of that was probably some of the best training I ever had. The whole northern country there, like Luzon, was like a low altitude training area for us.
Yeah.
Plus, we got escorts and the Hawaiian National Guard guys. They were, like most National Guard guys, they know their planes inside and out. They're flying F4 Phantoms, but they know those planes. They've been flying them for decades. Guys. Yeah. It was great having those guys escorting us, and we were going in, really refined our tactics because you had all the simulated threat systems. And when you got done with the mission, you would get a piece of cake, probably a kill on whether or not you got taken out. They could mark exactly where your bombs hit. We're dropping simulated ordnance and so on, but they could see, what was your effect on target. So really great training between Team Spirit, Cope Thunder, and so on. And while we're talking about Cope Thunder, we're going to digress here into a funny story. So you guys remember Dog Straw, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Dog Straw, great guy. He was our OPSO. Break glass in case of war.
Yeah.
So you see Dog. Dog was a very highly decorated person. Like he got silver stars and stuff. And I remember we kind of tried to get it out of him sometimes, and he just wouldn't say much. Well, finally, Cope Thunder's over. We're at the bar, and we're like, "Hey, sir, no more beating around the bush. Tell us some of your stories." And so it's like, "How'd you get that silver star?" So he flew Cobras in Vietnam, and he says, and he talked. That guy, he'd ejected from an A4, broken neck, and so he kind of talked like this. And so we're like, "Dog, you got to tell us, sir." And he goes, "Well, Grunt's going into the LZ, and we had to suppress the LZ." We're like, "There's more to it. Come on."
Yeah.
Well, we went Winchester, and Winchester means you've expended all your ordnance.
Yep.
We're like, okay. And he looks at us and he kind of goes, I mean, everything. We're like, rockets, guns? And he goes, everything. And we're like, so Dog and his wingman, suppressing the LZ as the grunts are being inserted, empty their rockets, empty their cannon, reach down, grab their M16 carbines, pop their canopies, shooting down at the VC. Those go empty. They grab their grenades, and he said they used to go in the club and grab the highball glasses, pull the pin on the grenade, stick it in the highball glass, held the spoon closed. When you threw the glass, it hit the ground, the glass broke, the spoon flipped, and the grenade would go off. They emptied all their grenades, and then they pulled out their 38s.
No
Shit.
They did everything short of pulling out their Johnsons and pissing on them. Oh my God.
I feel like that
So
should have been
bad.
more than a Silver Star effort right
yeah.
there.
And they're,
right?
as you can imagine, their Cobras were full of freaking holes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they come back and they're like, that's empty, that's empty. All your magazines are gone for your M16s. Their service pistol, is empty. And then he said,
And the club had no highball glasses left.
exactly.
Yeah, right. That was the real emergency.
Yeah. All right. So
Oh my
he tells
gosh.
us, we're like, holy crap, sir. So, Dog's not buying a drink. So
Yeah.
we're feeding him drinks. Meanwhile, the MEU had come into town, and so they're in port, and the MEU commander's there.
Okay, the MEU.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Marine Expeditionary Unit.
Yep.
So 3 ships, 2,000 Marines. Of course, the amphibious ready group of the Navy squadron that transports.
It's how we take the beaches.
There you go. Hey, there you go, baby. So anyway, so Dog is talking to the MEU Dog is sitting there, and the MEU commander is talking to a distinguished gentleman, like in a sport coat and a collared shirt, which really doesn't quite fit in at the QBO club, as you can remember.
Right.
And he hears him talking about, I don't know, the employment of, aircraft with the MEU, whatever. And Dog walks over there and he goes, you know what the fuck you're talking about, and starts, telling him the right way, what's really going on. And the MEU commander looks at this distinguished gentleman and says, well, sir, what the major means to say is, and Dog says, hey, wait a minute. I know who you are, but you called him sir, and I don't know who the fuck you are. Who are you? I said, I'm General so-and-so, and you're drunk, Major.
Oops.
So this is about to go south real quick.
And your point is?
Rosie is sitting there listening to all this shit, and Rosie, he suddenly runs over to us and says, get on the stage. We're like, what? There's a little Filipino band playing. We're like,
Yeah.
what? He goes, get on the stage. We're singing Happy Birthday to Dog now. So we're like, okay.
Okay.
Filipino band, you're all like 5'0". Suddenly all these like 6'+ Marines jump on the stage, grab the mics out of their phone. They're like, what the hell's going on? We're like, play Happy Birthday now. And we all sing Happy Birthday. And I guess this general was in the process of like ripping Dog a new asshole. And we start singing Happy Birthday. And Rosie goes back down there. We all, and everybody starts singing all of a sudden. And of course, Mongoose Seal's going, it ain't Dog's birthday. What the hell's going on?
It is now, boss.
Rosie running goes, sir, we're so glad we can celebrate your birthday with you. And the general stops and says, from
It's
the
your birthday.
ass chewing, and goes, well, I see it's your birthday and you're celebrating and you've probably had a little too much to drink, but that's okay. Why don't you go enjoy your birthday and let it go?
Holy shit. Well played, gentlemen. Well played.
Absolutely. Oh,
He
man.
grabs all the lieutenants and he gets us in a circle and he just goes, just so you know, I owe you motherfuckers and I won't forget. Now, fast forward 2 years, and if we get to that, I'll tell you about that.
Yeah.
Rosie's from Texas.
Yeah.
And so this is like 92, I think. And, So we were working hard doing something, and we get a call. Rosie comes one day and goes, "Hey, man, we got to go see Dog." I'm like, what do we do? Why do we go to see the operations officer? And he's like, I don't think we're in trouble, but follow me. I'm like, all right, we get in there, and Dog's like, hey, I don't forget shit, and you guys been working hard, and I remember what you guys did for me. He goes, so I'm gonna give you a good deal. Got a nice air show here down in Paris. And Rosie whispers to me, let's hold out for another one. He's from Texas. He knows Paris, Texas is in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Right?
And Dog looks at us and goes, Paris, Texas? Paris, France, you dumb motherfuckers. The way Dog talks, And we're like, what? I mean, you guys know. Nobody had ever gone to the Paris Air Show.
What?
I've never been there. But, the whole Mac attack post-Desert Storm was a big deal, and McDonnell Douglas wanted to...
they want to sell airplanes. Yes.
And so they call down, and, they grab the Cherry Point guys because, what's right down the road? Seymour Johnson. What was there? Strike Eagles. Another big Mac attack bird. And so anyway, that's how me and Rosie went with a skipper and went to the damn Paris Air Show back in '92. No kidding.
Hey,
That is outstanding.
Did you do a demo? Did you guys fly a demo?
Nah, we didn't. We did. It was all just static display. They lined up the U.S. hardware there.
All right.
And it was just, and I basically stood in front of the plane. I don't speak a lick of French, and I handed out pins for a week.
Yeah, but you're a chiseled, good-looking Marine standing in front of a Marine weapons system, and people just wanted to get their picture taken with you because this was before cell phones. There were no selfies. They were taking 35 millimeter photographs, baby.
Oh yeah, right. I got to tell you, before we left, I'm going to kind of continue on some of the Dog stuff in Westpac. We had, it just gets better. So. Naida Baru is where the Japanese their I think it was maybe where their fighter weapons school was, and so we were kind of a new aircraft in Westpac, and so they wanted to do some DACT, differential air combat training, kind of air to air dogfighting stuff with us. So anyway, we do a bunch of flying with them. I remember our WTI flat top Moneric. He went down there, briefed them up, and got everything coordinated so we go out there and do some good training. And we were flying against their F4s and F15s and afterwards, the Japanese, being very gracious, invited us down to Naida Baru, wanted to thank us in person, gift exchange, and so on. And then they wanted to take us out to kind of like an outdoor, like a hot tub springs type of thing.
Sure,
sure. Pretty expensive, and it was a very nice gift. So anyway, we go to that, and it's, there's like a half dozen of us. And Dog was there. It's like me, Sal, and Flat Top, and some other guys. And anyway, so we go to this little resort place, and you go in and you get undressed. You got to take a shower first because they want to make sure you're clean. And then you walk out, and they give us this little towel, and I'm like, man, this thing doesn't fit around my waist. What are you supposed to do with it? So we're kind of throwing it over our shoulder. Apparently, you're supposed to hold that in front of yourself and
cover your junk.
Yeah, a little modesty here, lads.
Yeah. It's a loincloth for you big gringo guys.
That's right.
Japanese guys could tie it twice around their waist, but for you guys, it was a loincloth, like Tarzan.
So we walk out, and so they got in the background, there's always little stones, little waterfall, little beautiful nature thing, and it's heated up, and little geisha girls were there to give you little back rubs and stuff. And so I walk up, I see this round tub, and these two elderly Japanese guys are sitting in there, and I'm like, oh, maybe this little hot tub thing, and I'll give it a shot. I'll step in this thing. And my toe hits that water.
400 degrees Fahrenheit or 450?
Minus.
Oh,
40
yeah.
degrees.
Oh, the other way. Oh,
no
kidding.
The original cold plunge.
And as my toe hits that, I look at these two Japanese guys, and they're looking at me like South American handle it. And I'm like, I'm stepping in.
I'm going in now.
And now suddenly the loincloth is plenty large.
I'm going in.
Dude, bingo.
Testicles went up underneath your tonsils.
Yeah, I can't talk because I got two freaking balls in my throat.
And not in a bad way.
What's going through my mind right now, right? I'm like, you will peel my frozen body out of this freaking tub of water before I let those dudes show me up.
Right.
I sit down there and I look at them and they look at me and I'm like, dude,
I can do this all day.
I get out of this before you guys do. And I'm sitting there, and they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and I just kind of glance at my fingers, like, clean my fingernails, and I notice that they're, solid purple, and I'm like, okay, it's frostbite hasn't kicked in yet, but I'm like,
I'm on my way to hypothermia.
There it
this
is, man.
Titanic shit. I'm like, I'll be Leonardo DiCaprio in a frozen frickin' block of ice as they finally pull my body out before I will get out and give them. And so finally, they mumble something in Japanese and get up, and I'm just like, yes,
Good.
freaking won.
Yeah.
Now, I think Salerson walks by and goes, hey, dude, why don't you join us over here? And I go, I would, but I can't move my freaking legs right now.
I can't feel anything below my tits.
I can't feel anything. And so he kind of helps me out. And I said, now we're going to pretend like we're just buddies, and I'm going to walk with my arm around you because I can't walk right now. You get that fucking hot water.
God, I'm crying.
These two old Japanese dudes looking at me, just smile and laugh, and just say, man, is it me or is it hot?
Yeah. Whew. Jeez.
So anyway, we get in there, we do the whole little hot tub thing, and then that night we were at the bar. And we're starting to drink, starting to have fun. And the Japanese guys start doing like bar tricks. And the one guy, he's kind of looking at, there's not a whole lot of bilingual stuff going on here. So anyway, we're kind of at our end, they're kind of at their end. The skipper's, intermixing with their CO, and Mongoose likes to have a nice glass of wine, and he's a very well-read guy. He's probably, talking about what Musashi Miyamoto, reading the 5 Rings with this guy and talking about all that stuff. And anyway, Japanese, the young guys come down, and guy looks at us, and they grab the toothpicks, and dude builds the Eiffel Tower out of freaking toothpicks. And we're looking at him like, yeah. He's kind of like, what are you going to build? And like me and Sal just order another beer, and Dog's looking at us, and and the guy kind of says, where are you from? And I'm like, well, I'm from California, up near San Francisco. And the dude proceeds to build the Golden Gate Bridge out of freaking toothpicks. And I'm like, and the Dog looks at us and goes, you guys got to do something. What the fuck can you two do? And so Sal and I look at each other, and we're like, dog tag chains.
Oh, no. No.
So, here's a kind of a famous trick that takes some skill.
I know where you're going.
Parents out there, don't let your children try this. This is for professionals only.
Professionals.
So you unhook your dog tag chains, and you drop one chain down through your nostril.
Yep.
And then you feed it down your throat. And you have to get it down a few inches, because you can't. You got to pull it out your mouth, and you got to get it. So it's got to go down your throat a few inches. You can cough it out and pull it through.
Yep.
Now your chain is going in a nostril, down your throat, and out your mouth. So he and I turn around. And the Japanese like, what are they doing? And we get it down. And then, of course, you got to hook it together.
Yep.
And then we turn back around, and Sal grabs a chain and moves it back and forth with the dog chains traveling. And dude, you could have seen 20 Japanese chins hit the freaking bar. And in the background, all I could hear was, no wonder we lost the war.
Right. So hey, just I know I'm picturing this, Vapor. I'm picturing this, but just so we can verbalize this, you guys connected the dog tag chains together.
Yes.
So it was a continuous loop between your nose and mouth, and you were spinning it back and forth between the two of you.
So it's in my nose, out my mouth, into Sal's mouth, out his nose, into my nose. And then with the dog tags hanging in the middle, you could move it back and forth and see the movement.
Yeah.
Prove that it was hooked up.
Yeah.
And they just did not know what to think looking at us. Dog is dying laughing, and Mongoose is absolutely befuddled with embarrassment.
I'm sure he's mortified. I'm absolutely mortified. Oh my God.
Love it.
And we're like, so, what you guys faced on Iwo Jima.
Yeah. This is why you lost.
Yep. Yeah, man. The guy in our squadron that used to do that practically every Friday night was Sleeper, as I recall.
Yeah. Who was one of our very first guests on this podcast.
Yeah.
And, Sleeper's a perfect call sign for this guy because,
You'd never know it.
You'd
looking
not
at him, talking to
associate
him.
him with the dog tag chain trade at all. No.
Like I said, professionals only.
Right? Exactly.
Try this as an amateur.
Oh my God! Well, I need a minute to catch my breath. I am howling. Tears are running out of my eyes.
I know.
listening to this.
You know what? I expected great stories. I did not expect an ab core workout.
Oh.
And I'm pleasantly surprised, and I want to say thank you for that, Vapor.
Absolutely.
Well, I do have a couple questions.
Hang on. Let me do this then. Hang on.
Okay. All right.
Hold those questions. Let's talk about some of the people that helped bring the show to us, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes and 52 seconds to go on with that, and then we'll move on into the to the Gulf War as well. But here we go. We'll be right back. Thank you to the folks who help bring us this show every week. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, finding the time and energy to cook a delicious and nutritious home-cooked meal can be a challenge. Enter HelloFresh, a game changer in the culinary scene that I've had the pleasure of trying. My wife loves it because they do all the meal planning and the shopping for the correct ingredients and provide ready-to-prepare meals right to your door. Now, 2 nights a week, we eat a great home-cooked meal without the hassle of planning and preparing a menu and shopping for the exact ingredients. One of the first things that struck me about HelloFresh is the incredible variety of food choices available. The options span multiple cuisines, dietary preferences, and creativity levels, making every mealtime an exciting culinary adventure. Whether you're craving Italian pasta, Asian stir-fry, or a classic American burger, there's a good chance you'll find it on their menu. And with their commitment to high-quality ingredients, you can be confident that you're refueling your body with the best. When it comes to preparation, HelloFresh truly shines. Each meal kit arrives with pre-portioned ingredients, eliminating the need for measuring and reducing waste. This also means less time spent preparing and more time savoring the delicious results. Furthermore, each kit provides suggestions for adjusting the flavors to your taste, empowering you to personalize each dish. But what truly sets HelloFresh apart is the easy-to-follow recipe cards. Detailed yet simple instructions transform cooking into a stress-free, enjoyable process, accompanied by clear, step-by-step photos. These recipe cards make the cooking process almost foolproof. Yes, even I did it without a mistake. Regardless of your kitchen experience, these guides instill a sense of confidence that you're on the right track every step of the way. In essence, HelloFresh strikes a perfect balance between convenience and gourmet cooking. It brings the joy of preparing and consuming a wide range of delicious meals right into your kitchen with minimal fuss and maximum satisfaction. Whether you're a seasoned home cook looking for new inspirations or a busy professional wanting a quick yet wholesome meal, HelloFresh could be the fresh breath of culinary air you've been looking for. So what do you do now, you ask? Well, it's simple. To get the great deal, go to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas16 and use the code SoThereIWas16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. That's right. You heard right. 16 free meals by going to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas16 and use code SoThereIWas16 for 16 free meals and free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
I'd like to take a moment and tell you about another podcast that should be on your list called Flight Safety Detectives. The weekly episodes cover topics in aviation safety like no other program out there. Hosts John Golia, Greg Faith, and Todd Curtis share their accumulated knowledge from a combination more than a century of aviation experience. Greg is a former NTSB investigator, and John is a former board member who has been named as a living legend in aviation. Todd, a former airline safety engineer at Boeing and a pilot. If you're a fan of aviation, which I believe you are if you're listening to this podcast, listen to their podcast or watch episodes of the Flight Safety Detectives on the YouTube channel. You'll get behind-the-scenes details from headline-grabbing accidents and lesser-known accidents. Go behind the hype and understand the facts. Learn how to be a better pilot, mechanic, or maybe just a more savvy passenger, which we need more of. Flight Safety Detectives have shared aviation safety lessons and fascinating stories related to the Boeing 737 MAX crashes, which was very important to me, general aviation accidents from around the globe, celebrity pilots, and much more. You'll enjoy their unvarnished commentary as they hold everyone accountable for flying safety.
That was awesome. So, I was able to catch my breath there a little bit. I feel like I've been doing crunches.
Yeah, a whole bunch
Sit-ups.
of core workout.
Like
That's
I just
one less
finished
thing
a
I gotta do
PFT.
today. Thank you, Vapor. Thank you for that. That was fantastic.
I think it's only going to get better, too. I could be wrong, but
So, holy cow! I don't even. I
Yeah.
kind of lost my train of thought, really.
well, you said you had some questions before we went to our break, but
Yeah. So that was Westpac. What year did you guys Westpac? That was 90, right?
We 89. We took off in 89.
89.
And, we got back in June. It was like December, like just the tail end. So 89 and 90 was our Westpac. Like I said, 331 went there with a partial squadron. So we were the first squadron deployment, and then 231 came in behind us. And that's why when you talk to Curly, they were in Westpac.
Right.
As a shield kicked off and went straight from there all the way across, that flew around the world to go to a freaking war,
yeah.
So was Pisser in your squadron?
Yeah. We were in
And,
that. It was that group of lieutenants with, it was Jamie Richards, Dana Duff. Then it was Beeve and Rosie came in. And then it was me and Sal. And then after that, it was Pisser and Turbo. And that was
Disco. Was he?
He was older. Yeah, he was one of those guys like him and Strutt and Woody. They were in that group that when they got out of flight school or out of TBS, flight school was backed up. They all went and did like a ground tour, and then they came in. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what happened to me too. But I wound up doing 3 years before I made it to flight school. So that's how I didn't get back till 90. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I didn't know you did 3 years.
Holy I did Hawk missiles for 3 years before I got to flight school. Yeah.
Those guys only did like a year, dude. You had a long journey, man.
Yeah, it kind of sucked, but you know what? In some ways it worked out well for me. I was able to augment. Not that worked out because I wound up leaving when they tried to send me to the Pentagon. But I was able to augment before all my 84 flight bubbas because they didn't have a year of observed fitness reports, and I did.
Oh, shoot, there you go.
So I was able to augment right away and come in, and that worked out really well, and I had a pretty good job, and I was going to make it a career, and then they offered me Pentagon IG staff, and I went,
Repeat, you need to talk about augment. What? I don't think we've ever
there
talked
you go.
about that. What is that?
So,
remember, I was a monitor, and I'm going to tell the audience, augmentation, you get in the Marine Corps, you're commissioned as a reserve officer, and if you don't augment into the regular Marine Corps, your career, I don't care who you are, how great you are, your career is going to be over. And augmentation was extremely competitive. So when you hear that Repeat got augmented, what that means is he was in our performance evaluations, he came out as a very top percentile officer. Otherwise, you didn't get augmented. So that is a testament to you, Repeat, that you were able to augment into the regular Marine Corps because it was a challenge.
It was a challenge, and then it was so much of a challenge that 84 ground literally closed before I ever had enough fitness reports to even apply.
Oh my God.
So when I got to go to 84 Air, when I shifted to flight school, that worked out well for me. But yeah, I forgot you were the monitor. That must have been a cool job. But it was your successor who tried to send me to the Pentagon, and as fate would have it, some 20 years later.
Yeah, Oingo.
No, it was between Oingo and you, or it might have been your predecessor because this was late '94.
Obi-Wan Schwan.
Yeah, he was a Hornet guy.
He was later. He was an A6 guy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, he's the one that tried to send me to the Pentagon, and as fate would have it, some 20 years later, we're flying through the dark of night up to Anchorage, Alaska, and we get to chatting. And he's my FO.
No, yeah. How about that?
Yeah, and he had a pretty good career, but he wound up taking the heat and jumping out when some things went on. That when you're the CO, you're ultimately responsible for everything. So even though things happened that were beyond his control, the buck stops here, baby. And so
that's true. Hey, here's a quick one on that. So I had orders to. So Scratch Jones, he had been a monitor, and Venom Jones. So Venom Jones is now the group commander, and Scratch Jones is my squadron commander. And I remember talking to him, you know, what should I do? He says, you know, go. I said, I like flying the plane, so I want to get back into the squadron. And so the quickest way to do it is a factor AWS. I go, I'll do one of those two, and then I'll be right back here, you know, within a year.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I get AWS, and then, you know, one night, you know, it's like a Friday, everybody's ready to head over to the Dirty Shame, which was the club where everybody had a great time. What great memories. Anyway, we can do an entire show on antics at the Shame, but
all right,
you don't have enough airtime for that. Anyway, so Scratch is like, "Hey, Vapor, yeah, let's go up to the group. Let's go up to see the group CO." And I'm like, you know, I'm nuts. I'm like, what? You know, I'm not drinking buddies with Venom. You know, what are we going up there for? Oh, come on, we want to talk to you about some things. And I'm like, so we walk up to the office. You walk into, you know, Venom's, and this is the group commander. You don't talk to the group commander. You know,
he's a full colonel. Yeah, you got a commanding officer betwixt you and him.
Captains don't go talk to the group commander for fun. No. You don't. You're not drinking buddies.
Yeah. We are not at all.
Ever.
You know, great guy, but you know, we're not at that level.
No.
And anyway, we walk in the office, and Venom comes around his desk and, "Hey, Vapor, how you doing?" Shakes my hand and brings me over to the big comfortable chair. And I look over, Scratch is sitting, you know, on a little 3-legged wooden stool in the corner, and I'm sitting in the big chair, and I'm thinking, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Can you feel it coming? Yeah.
Oh, hey, Vapor, you know, we all worked at Manpower. It'd really help out the community if, you know, we got, you know, a Harrier guy into Manpower, and, you know, you're already on your way up there, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just, my eyes are getting big, like,
what?
You know, it's like, no.
What?
Well, you know, the first criteria to be a monitor is, right?
No.
That you don't want the job.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
Anybody ever volunteers for the job, they are an immediate X. You're not, no, because they know you got an agenda. So they want to do this like me, terrified.
No.
You got to be kidding me. No. And so they're talking to me about, you know, thinking beyond myself and helping out the community and all this stuff.
So real quick, let me jump in. The monitor is the guy who assigns, and you were the company grade monitor. Yeah. You assigned all the pilots that were captain and below to their next job. You sent them to flight school. You sent them to fact tours. You sent them to fixed wing monitor. That's right. Yeah,
fixed wing aviation.
But you were the jobs guy for captains and below that flew airplanes in the Marine Corps, fixed wing airplanes. So and you were either loved or hated, I'm sure.
Yeah. Did I ever give you guys orders?
No. However,
I think you did to me. I think you gave me orders to 203.
I was in Kingsville as an IP when you came down, and we set up a brief. You gave you briefed all the Marines on on follow-on and stuff, and then all the instructors stayed back, and there was a bunch of A6 guys that were lobbying to, stay flying.
You need a night with my wife? What is it going to take there?
and you were dealing with, and this is, I didn't envy you because you were dealing with, guys were bailing out of the Marine Corps left and right. This was 1995, probably, 1996.
Transition conversion. The A6s are going away. The Broncos are going away. The RF4s are going away. And these poor guys are like, they're going, where am I going? And before the Marine Corps ran a transition conversion board, it was just like, guys are calling me saying, dude, where am I going? And so what we basically did was we would get hold of CO, and it's like, if this guy is going to represent the Marine Corps well, he's not bitter, we're going to get him the training command and keep him flying and just say, dude, then at least you get hours, you be an airline pilot, something like that. If the guy was like super bitter and would be poison around lieutenants, we're like, yeah, we're not going to send you down there. And then finally, we were kind of raising it up our chain saying, look, something official needs to be done. And they finally ran a transition conversion board to pick the guys that were going to go, because your only choices were you're going to go Prowlers, Harriers, or Hornets. Everything else, A6s, R4s, Broncos, they're all going away.
Right.
And that was kind of a difficult time for guys that, their planes going away, and they're like, what am I going to go do?
Right. That was rough.
Anyway, so
big time.
Yeah.
So did you do AWS and then go to headquarters, or you went straight to headquarters?
VFR direct.
Nice.
Good Lord.
And so when I picked mine, I actually, Oingo, Jeff Hoing, great guy.
Yeah, I went to the RAG with Oingo.
Yeah, Oingo's a good guy, and he did not want the job, which of course brought him
Right.
right to the top.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
he had a good record,
Exactly.
a really good reputation with people that knew he was a good guy. And I'm like, Oingo, I'm sorry, but you're a good guy, and you don't want the job. You just hit the 2 criteria we're looking for.
You're it.
I'm sorry.
Whoops. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he did-
solve the question, the $1 million question. Did you cut yourself outstanding orders, or are you allowed to cut your own orders?
You do cut yourself your own orders, and the kind of thing in the shop is kind of an unwritten thing is don't cut yourself some good deal, because you're going to lose, the shop's going to lose credibility. Like if I cut myself orders to the Spanish exchange tour, I mean it would, the shop would lose credibility. I would look like a turd in the face of everybody's eyes.
Yeah.
So really the thing we do, because you got to live with what you told people, and if you came out of the fleet as a captain, you need to go back to the fleet. So I just cut myself orders right back to Cherry Point, and I was lucky because I got in, and the Radar 9 attack was showing up, and Too Tall was the CO of 231, and Too Tall, rest in peace. We just lost him to cancer not too long ago.
Right.
And a great guy, and I talked to him. He said, "Yeah, Vapor, I'll take you down here, and we'll get you ready." And then I end up really fortunate. The first Harrier 2 Plus debt with, guess who? Curly and Bar. They kind of loaded it because normally there's one major, but it was the first deployment of the new plane. And so Slam Arnold was the OIC. Then they wanted to get some more majors, so they grabbed me, Curly, and Bart. And then second tour, like Captain Z-Man is on it. And then we grabbed some new guys like Z-Man. And then we had Gramps. And then it was a Cuddles Denson, God bless him, may he rest in peace, and Poppy Bradisich and Oz.
Okay.
That made out that debt, and that was a pretty good. That was a good debt. We did some neat stuff, and save that for another time.
Oh, that's outstanding. Well, so let's back up then a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about the Gulf War.
Yeah. So you did the monitor shop after becoming a combat veteran.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, we got back from Westpac, and we got back in June, and we took off in August. So the single guys never even got to go on leave, because when you get back, the married guys with kids, get them out on leave, do their leave period, and then he invaded. Saddam invaded Kuwait. So
August of 90.
August of 90.
Yeah. And so they kind of stabilized things. And so I never even went on, a couple of single guys. We never even made it to go on leave after coming back from Westpac. And we got the warning order to go. And so I just remember we flew out like at 11 o'clock at night, in August. And, some brilliant guy said, "Hey, well, we want you to land in Rota, Spain," which is where the Spanish Harrier base is. As the sun's coming up, it'll wake you up as you land. I'm like, yeah, we took off at 11 o'clock at night, and we're freaking tired. Brilliant. So anyway,
yeah,
I remember this. Flying across, and we had some interesting characters in that squadron. And let's just stop for a moment and talk about stereotypes. Stereotypes are actually not a fantasy. They actually are based on factual things that occur over and over, which leads you to have a stereotype of a person. So, for example, maybe West Virginians. So we got a guy named Lyman Denord. Now, the name in itself, Lyman,
right?
That's a nice West Virginian name.
Sure.
And so we're taking off to go, and of course, we're putting on the dry suits. And the only guy that's not putting on the dry suit, by the way, is the only RAF Harrier pilot that ever flew in the war, which is Flight Lieutenant Andy Dakin. Great guy, by the way. Great pilot. And anyway, so as we're getting dressed out, we noticed Andy's the only guy not putting on the dry suit. We're like, "Andy, you know better than anybody the North Atlantic's cold as shit. Why aren't you putting on your dry suit?" He goes, "Because I'm the only guy that's got enough brains to know all this thing is going to do is extend my misery half an hour while you're waiting 4 hours for the fucking C-130. So he goes, "I ain't wearing it." We're like, "Good point."
Yeah,
and
good point.
Skipper's like, "Well, he's RAF. I really can't tell him what to do." So here we go.
Hence our theme song, Crossing the North Atlantic at Night.
So anyway, Lyman's about halfway across, and he's got the urge to go. And he goes, I just sat there to myself, and I thought to myself, "Self, I can be miserable for the last 4 hours, or I can just, get it over with." So Lyman turns the dry suit into the poopy suit and lands on the other side. And And you know that thing zipped across your chest, and as soon as the plane captain unzipped it, fumes came out.
Oh,
Knocked the poor guy over. He's like,
shit.
"Holy shit, sir! Literally, holy shit!" They get the poopy suit off, turned it inside out, washed that thing out, and of course he just threw away his flight suit and everything. They were in Rhoda. So we got some of our Spanish Harrier brethren that, we all trained those guys at Cherry Point, so we know a bunch of them. And they got him a flight suit that he could use, and continued on. But anyway, so when you hear about West Virginians, it kind of becomes like, there's a little bit of stereotypes. Anyway, so we get into Saudi Arabia, and we're one of the first groups there. We're literally living in. It's classic Marine Corps expeditionary stuff. We're literally living in tents. It's summer. It's 120 degrees in the damn shade. The maintenance guys, they're getting burned just touching the planes, but they're doing a phenomenal job keeping the planes up. And we're living in tents. The Air Force guys, they got to get there. They put them in barracks with air conditioning and air-conditioned tents because, their maintenance guys, couldn't work on the plane safely. And we're like, really? Our maintenance guys are doing just fine with it. And so are our pilots, by the way. Anyway, so we're there for a while. We're all in Sheikh's base in Bahrain because there's a big causeway that connects Bahrain to Saudi Arabia. And we didn't know if Saddam was going to attack south. And if he would have attacked south, we could have always blown the causeway and kind of been safe out there. And that's why they chose it. And then finally, the 7th Med went ashore. They dropped the 82nd in first, but the 82nd, remember, nothing against them, but if you get there fast, you get there light. And what I mean by light is no logistics. So they don't have a lot of food, water, ammunition. So, not to be negative, we kind of call them the speed bump division. They were going to do much. And with an armored assault, an airborne unit just isn't going to last. When the 7th Med came ashore, that's the Marine Expeditionary Brigade. They've got armor, artillery, and they got our close air support behind them. That's when things were safe, when they got ashore. Then another Med came in and they put in a blocking position. And at that point, we forward deploys up to the King Abdulaziz Naval Base, which was a soccer stadium. And of course, the royal family has to be able to fly in. So there's a little runway there. And the Marine Wing Support Squadron folks built in a bunch of that AN2 matting I talked about, which is matting to build more runway, taxiways, stuff like that. Actually, we didn't have taxiways, just kind of parking spots, some pads, and built all that. And so we were at the Desert Shield for 5 months, which, by the way, kind of sucked. We just sit in the desert not knowing what's going to happen. And then Desert Storm kicked off on January 17th. And before that, General Boomer, who is the MEF commander, Marine Expeditionary Force, we got 96,000 Marines there. People forget, we had 500,000 U.S. Personnel there, and we had about 90% of the combat power of the Marine Corps, 96,000 Marines there. And General Boomer comes down, and he's talking to the Harrier group, and he said, all right, you guys are my long-range artillery. I don't want you guys to fly in initial stages of the war because I need you to be our close air support as we advance. Because the Iraqis were very good with building kind of an impenetrable barrier, which they'd proven in
fighting Iran.
Fighting Iran, exactly. Thank you. So they were very good at this, and so our casualty estimates were pretty high. So he said, I'm going to hold you guys in as we advance forward out from under our artillery umbrella and into their artillery umbrella. You guys need to be, taking their guns out. Because, as everybody professional knows, is that, obstacles don't stop you. They just channelize you. And the division are going to blow a couple holes through narrow, corridors through these minefields and stuff. And now when you're concentrated in the middle like that, enemy artillery can rain down on you and make things very unpleasant.
Right.
So anyway, so we're sitting there going, okay, we're going to sit alert. And January 17 kicks off. And next thing you know, we get woken up. I'm on the alert crew. I'm the CO's wingman. So it's Mongoose and me. And then remember Lovey, Major Lovejoy. And then he's this other section lead. And then Beeve is his wingman. So we get woken up, get called in. And one of the caveats is that the Marines will hold the Harriers back unless Marine units come under fire. And so we get the DAS calls down because there's a Marine unit under fire. It's a forward operating base.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like an ISR group. It's commanded by this guy named Lieutenant Colonel Barry.
ISR.
Yep, okay, DAS, ISR. Yep, sorry.
Intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. And so he's using Marine Recon, he's got Army SF, he's actually got Navy SEALs, and they are up there probing the lines, looking for weak spots. SEALs are obviously handling the stuff in the sea, Marine Recon, Army SF, looking at other places. And he's got a command post up there. He's got 8 forward places. And so when the war kicks off, the Iraqis start shelling him. And he calls in for air support, and 2 A-10s show up, and their ROE is not to go below 10,000 feet, and is an SAA threat. So they show up and go away because
SA8.
Surface to air missile, and it was one of the Soviet systems, and so it was kind of a higher threat system, and because they also had an ROE, rules of engagement, that they would not go below about 10,000 feet. That kind of puts you in the part of the threat envelope for anti-aircraft artillery.
Thank you.
Man-portable air defense systems, the kind of handheld ones, and some of those things. So they don't go in. There was kind of a cloud layer and some smoke in there, and that's what caused it. So the Direct Air Support Center, the DASC, had called down to us and say, launch these guys. And so an OV-10 Bronco is a 2-seat plane, and they're up there. And as a matter of fact, the guy in the back seat was a Chief Warrant Officer Hunter, who was a guy that got shot down as a POW. So there's a guy, Captain Curry in the front, Hunter in the back. And so we get launched to go up there. So it's Mongoose is the lead. I'm -2, Lovey's 3, Beeve is 4. We got a mixed loadout of 4 Mark 83s, Sidewinders and guns, or 4 Mark 20 Rockeye, which is a cluster munition. Each cluster munition will open up and has 247 submunitions inside it, which are very good for anti-armor and things like that. And then, of course, winders and the guns. So our guns it's a 25 millimeter a gun, second most powerful behind the A-10. We're carrying uranium depleted rounds and so on.
Mark 83.
Oh, Mark 83 is a 1,000-pound general purpose.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yep. So I'm carrying 4 Mark 83s, 2 winders a gun, and we take off. And I'm like, man, we're really going. I thought we were going to be held up, and here we go. So taking off.
Vapor. Sorry to interrupt. Winder.
Oh, sorry. AIM-9 Sidewinder is a heat-seeking air-to-air missile.
Thank you.
Because in the early stages, there was still an air threat from the Iraqis. They had a lot of pretty effective air force, at least against the Iranians. And it's day one, so we haven't taken them out yet. We do not have air dominance or air superiority yet. We haven't established that. So the Harriers, we're flying with our air defense systems as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, we take off. We go out over the water, so we're feet wet. We talked to the OV-10 Bronco. Said, "Yep, we got artillery units firing on a Marine outpost." So we'll mark it with the Willie Pete. They didn't need to. We could see the guns firing. So we're at about 8,000 feet now, feet wet, and we can look
under overcast, right?
Yeah, kind of highlighting ourselves.
Yeah.
And Willie Pete is white phosphorus. It's a it's used to mark targets. White flame smoke burns at about 4,000 degrees, whatever it is.
Hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Iraqi artillery, the way they'd set their batteries up, it would be like in a V formation. The V would be pointing towards the enemy, so it's a V pointing south. When they put their artillery piece in, they use classic Soviet tactics, and they put the guns about 30 to 40 meters apart. So in our weapons system, we can select how many bombs we want to drop at a time and the interval between them in depth. So we can set in, if there's 2 targets like 100 meters apart, we can put in, all right, I'm going to drop 4 bombs, 2 at a time, with an interval of 100 meters. And if you put we had a thing called a CCIP, constantly computed impact point. We could put that bomb cross like in the middle, and then 2 of the bombs will go, it's like I said, 100 meters. So 50 would, 2 would go 50 meters long, 50 meters short, and we could set up our system like that. So it's a very good system. So I set mine up to, okay, I'm going to drop 4 Mark 83s, 1,000 pounds. So 2,000 pounds of bombs per artillery piece. I'll put them 30 to 40 meters apart because that's what it looks like, how they spaced them. And so we come in and we're in a 4-plane combat spread formation, which means we're 1 mile a beam. So Mongoose and I are 1 mile a beam each other. And then about, maybe about 1.5 miles behind us is Lovey and Beeve. Again, they're 1 mile abeam each other. And so we did like a split attack. So we would each go down a leg of that V for those artillery batteries as they're going off. So Mongoose comes across. He comes in first. He's the lead. He drops his ordnance. I come in across, drop mine. Probably gone through our combat checklist a few times, making sure your weapons are armed up and everything's selected right and so on. Because it's kind of the real deal.
Yeah.
Don't want to look stupid in the bombing pattern there, huh?
Exactly, right? Yeah, what you do. And, it's kind of funny. People look at me, they ask, what were you thinking? And I'll tell you, and you guys know, you get so focused on the task at hand, you don't really think about anything else. It's like, This is what I've been trained to do. You're very focused, heads on a swivel. You're going through your job. You're clearing the 6-year wing. You're looking for threats, timing, target acquisition, weapons, delivery parameters, all this stuff. You're consumed, as a single seat attack pilot. You don't have time to be thinking about emotions and shit like that. You go into autopilot. And so some people ask you, like, weren't you scared? They're like, dude, you don't even think about that.
Didn't have time to be scared.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff to do.
One of the biggest motivators, you guys know this, it's like fear of failure. And it's like, it's like, I don't want to let anybody down. Don't
want to let my buddies down. Yeah. If I let my wingman down, I don't call his missile.
Repeat, you freaking nailed it, dude.
Yeah.
You don't want to let down your brother Marines. And this is our job. I don't want to let down my brother Marines. I don't want to let down the squadron, the Marine Corps, our freaking country. That's the only kind of fear, trepidation I had going in. Anyway, so we do a split attack, and I got the nerves, obviously, first combat mission. So when I pickle, push the bomb release button, I don't hold it down long enough. So I only drop 3 off. But, so knucklehead me. So Mongoose comes off, of course, probably a little more calm and cool than I was. So he gets all his weapons off, comes off the egress. I come off, and I'm checking his hits, come off, look back, got mine. Beeve and Lovey are coming in on their runs, and I I got one hung. And, I wasn't sure. I thought, I said, that could be self-induced, and it was. So I actually just roll right in, back around behind Beeve. He's -4, and drop my which was
I think I know where this might be going, because -4 is usually the guy that takes it in the shorts.
Yeah, I know. So I go around -5 now.
Yeah. I got you, Beeve.
I was very focused on getting that off, but now I just got, Pipper on target. So got a good hit on that one. Get guys mad. 1,000-pounders, that'll do some damage.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they all made 1 run. I made 2 runs. And then we egressed back out, feet wet. Mongoose is like, get out here. So we egressed, join up, and then, we got the gun. And we regroup, go right back in, and we each made 2 to 3 more runs until we were Winchester, empty on our 25 millimeter. Mongoose just said, let's go. Everybody pick a tube, an artillery tube. And we hit them, and we carry 300 rounds in the Harrier. You'll empty that gun in about 6 seconds. So we were always taught, remember, 1 second's about 50 round bursts. So 2 seconds is about 100 round burst. And so, and 100 rounds at 25 millimeter is going to do some damage to things. So we did that. And I'll tell you, this is where we probably got a little stupid, overly aggressive. We were like 1,000 feet strafing these guys. So we took out, between the ordnance and the guns, we took all this crap out. And meanwhile, found out later, Lieutenant Colonel Barry's peoples at the outpost are watching this, and they saw a lot of AAA getting shot at us and other stuff. And we were we came out, like I said, we were Winchester flares, 25 Mike bombs, cluster munitions. The only thing we didn't shoot was our sidewinders. And Mongoose kind of like, hey, we've been here too long, get out here, guys. And we egress back, feet wet, head south. And then just interesting point is on that mission, Lieutenant Colonel Barry actually wrote us up, and 3 people got DFCs off that mission because they carried some people later. And he said they were all bleeding from the nose and ears from the concussion of those 83s. He said they all stopped firing, and he said they were starting to get more accurate and walking their rounds on. And he said, and they didn't fire on us anymore after that. They were terrified, and they had found out later and so on. So they said, that's it. And anyway, Lieutenant Colonel Barry then became Colonel Barry. regimental commander, and he wrote us up and followed up on it to make sure we got that, because Strutt ran into him at CAX like a year or two later, and he asked about it, and the guy said, no. As Strutt told him, he said, no, nobody ever got a DFC. What are you talking about? He goes, I wrote those guys up. So he followed up on it and told the story about how the A-10s left him high and dry, and how the Marine Harriers came in, and it was, each squadron ended up launching division, but their guys watched all this, and so we felt pretty honored about that.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Jeez. We felt pretty cool about that. I mean, it was very, it's fulfilling, because you guys know our job is to support the grunts, and grunt writing us up for something like that, and it meant a lot to us. But it was, like I said, it was years later before it ever appeared for anybody. It just kind of all the mess. And be honest, if he wasn't a regimental commander at the time, who knows what would have happened? But that guy, I mean, there's a testament to leadership. Looking it up, following up on it,
following through. Yeah, right.
Right.
What a great example of leadership by Colonel Barry. I never met the man. Strutt made him out of CAX and said, no, these are the guys, and told him all about it. And he said, well, I'm following up on that. And he wrote a letter to the Marine Corps Gazette and so on. And his little article, he talked all about that, and basically making the case of, this is why the Marine Corps has close air support, because the Air Force said, don't worry, we'll take care of it for you. And, not knocking any A-10 guys, is, heroic guys out there and did a great job. But from an institutional perspective, they slapped ROE on these guys, which hamstrung them, and they can't violate their ROE, and they didn't.
Yeah.
But in the Marines, I mean, Mongoose didn't even give it a second thought. He's like, feet dry, let's go, and 8,000 feet ingress, and then it's like, let's go strafing. And you guys know gun runs. You ain't doing gun runs at 10,000 feet. We were down at low, and strafing the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Hey, and just as a side note for our listeners, each one of those 25 millimeter rounds is about a pound of projectile. So, you were putting.
And when it's supersonic or damn close to it.
And you guys were shooting HEI rounds, right?
Yeah, probably had HEI loaded at that point. We loaded in the API, armor-piercing incendiary, later. That's why, where I live now, Rocky Flats, the old Rocky Flats, where they made all the plutonium triggers, and people like, aren't you afraid of plutonium? I'm like, dude, I was walking around this, loading up your uranium depleted, rounds, helping out the ordnance guys. I'm like,
right.
I'm going to die of something in my life, but I'm not too worried about the plutonium that's like, a mile away from me, buried 30 feet in the dirt.
Well, my point being, you were throwing 50 rounds a second downrange. That's 50 pounds of high explosive supersonic projectiles coming downrange. That's impressive.
That's a good point, Fig. Yeah, you can think in those terms. That's a good point. Yeah,
it's impressive.
Yeah. And you mentioned Strutt. I got a quick Strutt story to just example of how small the world is. Again, the aviation world. So I'm sitting in out of town in my base one day, and I've known Strutt for a while. He's working for the scheduling group at my airline, and we were talking about a mutual friend whose daughter had just completed OCS, and the platoon sergeant had gotten sideways, shall we say, with the UCMJ, and we got to chatting about OCS and all that, and then realized I knew Strutt from Harriers, but I didn't realize that we went to OCS together.
No way.
In 83, we were in the same platoon in 83. We had this, and I went back and found the picture and everything. It's like, oh yeah, no shit. We stood right across from each other. I knew I recognized him. I knew him. Knew it was familiar. And I knew him from Harriers, and I thought that's where I knew him from. And we got to talking. It's like, oh crap, we went to OCS together too in 83. So
dude, that's a small world. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah. So all right, enough of my stories. We're here for your stories.
All right, back to the Gulf War. That was day one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
day
guys
one
weren't
and
supposed
so
to
much
be
fun.
flying, and you were on alert. And holy shit, here you go. Okay.
That was
so
something.
please continue. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I know there's a
so that was mission number one, and so we felt pretty successful about that. And then as you know, we kind of flew fairly survivable tactics as much as possible. So there's a couple times we flew, you didn't drop, high risk, and weather would have driven us low. And we're like, hey, we got time, we can come back the next day. But when the ground war kicks off, it's all bets are off. We're gonna do what we need to do. So we were surging 2 Harriers every 5 minutes, and as soon as that thing kicked off. And so second day of the ground war, they found ISR assets, intel surveillance reconnaissance assets. Found, I think it was the Iraqi 6th Armored Division is going after, as advancing toward the left flank of the 2nd Marine Division as they're punching through. So we found them in the morning, and I was taking off on that one with saltpeters. And at this point, we got the winders are off the planes because there's no air threat. So we're carrying our standard loadout was a 6 Mark 20 Rockeye, which equates to about 1,500 submunitions, and our gun. Pretty devastating load, very effective against armor, self-propelled artillery, all that type of stuff.
Right.
So we F-18 Deltas working the road that's heading that way, and we hit them, and we come back. We're flying out of our main base, but then we would hit a target, come back to our forward operating base, which is called Tanajib, maybe like 35, 40 miles south of the border, land there, expeditionary field, get loaded up with bombs, quick intel update, maybe hand you a sandwich, and then we get ready and off we'd go. There's a great shot of napalm and Rockeye. Napalm. We were the only aircraft dropping napalm. I was proud to say that.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Fire from the sky, baby. Yeah, off the top rope with the fire. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's for those watching on video, not listening on audio. Sorry. I'll try and get those within on sotherewas.us. I'll try and get some of these photos up within the blog post that covers this episode. So, yeah.
So we go back for the second one, and remember Saddam had lit off all the oil fires, so we've got a low ceiling of very black smoke and so on. So we got to get below that to get into the target area, and I think it was like maybe 8,000 feet on that one. So second mission coming up, and we're dropping down, like I said, surging 2 Harriers every 5 minutes. We come down, break out below. I don't see my lead, but I see the section right in front of us because the F-18, the airborne forward air controller, they're working up and down this road and calling out targets for us and calling out threat. And they said, hey, these guys are hunkered down now. After we hit them in the morning, they were moving. We stopped them. He said, I think they're hunkered down. No threat. Come on down. So when I break out, I look ahead.
No threat.
Right. Threat is a variable.
Right on.
Hey, Vapor, hold on. I gotta say, when I broke out, you mean you came through the overcast to the undercast, right?
Sir. So break out underneath that now.
Yeah. Okay.
When I look out ahead, I can see the section in front of it, which actually was Venom. Venom was a CO at 231 at that time, and so I see them pop their flares rolling in, and I look over and I don't see my lead. So I'm thinking, okay, try to join up in him or follow these guys in, and we're heading, toward the target area, and that's when I get hit by a surface to air missile, handheld one, probably an SA-14 is what it's called, and and it hits me in the right rear hot nozzle. And you guys know what this feels like. When you were doing lat altitude tactics training, so you're down low, pulling high G, and you hit like your wingman's jet wash.
Yes.
And the plane jump.
Yeah.
That's exactly. People say what I said. That's what it felt like.
Felt like you hit jet wash.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like shit. Except when it hits, there's noise also, and all the frickin' warning lights light up like at once. And I'm like shit.
Good times.
Good times. I just keep the G in to point south and roll out, look over my shoulder, and the wing's on fire. And people ask sometimes, did you think about punching out? Like my dad.
With the wing, did you have were you carrying napalm on that particular day?
I was carrying they loaded us up with Rockeye up at the center, and so I had I'd just been reloaded with 6 Rockeye again. And still had the gun. I didn't empty the gun on my first sortie, so I still had rounds in there. And so, anyway, I keep the turn in. I tell them I'm hit, and the F-18 Delta, they see me on fire. And it was a guy at the time. It was Lieutenant Rob Scanio, call sign Meats, the pilot.
I went to flight school with him.
Oh, did you go with Meat? Yeah, good dude. I talked to him later. Great guy, and he said Major Cronin was in the back seat. And they saw me get hit on fire, and they, good dudes. They shot up to join up on me. They're getting on the phone to the DAS, Direct Air Support Center, saying I'm going to get hit because they thought I was going to punch out any second. And I'm like, no, I said I'm not going to punch out. old thing my dad taught me. We had a machine shop and stuff, and he said, just as a kid, I just remember he told me one time, liquid burns, vapor explodes. And I'm like, well, I'm just burning right now. It ain't going to explode. And I don't want to punch out over top of a division that we've been bombing the piss out of for about the last 2 or 3 hours.
Right?
They're not going to be happy to see. Well, actually, they are going to be happy to see you. You're not going to be happy to see them.
Yeah. No welcome committee going to be on that one. It's going to be the different type of gauntlet. And anyway.
Left wing on fire. You didn't know this,
right
but
wing.
the left hot. Oh, right wing. So was it the right hot nozzle?
Yeah, right rear hot nozzle could hit, which you guys know is a big piece of titanium, very strong, which actually contained a lot of the blast. Which was good. So the plane's flying, and you just kind of go back to your basics. What do I need to fly? An engine and hydraulic system, because hydraulics runs on flight controls. And I'm so people say, what did you lose? I go, I didn't care what I lost. I always worried about what I had. And at the time, I had an engine, hydraulics were still lasting, even though I had the warning lights and stuff. And I go, so the plane's going to fly, and meat, is joining up, and so there's my navigation and my BDA, battle damage assessment, to tell me what's going on. And I just remember telling him, I said, let me know when we're across friendly line, we're away from friendlies, so I can jettison these things, because, things are pretty dynamic on the battlefield, exactly where friendlies were. It was a very dynamic environment. And so
when you say jettison these things, you didn't want to jettison those gators. They're not gators.
The Rockeye.
Yeah, you didn't want to jettison the Rockeye over friendlies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I didn't, because I'm a little.
That's big SA, bro. That is big situational awareness.
Yeah.
Well, the reason is because I lost SA is I turned south, and I'm like, and I didn't know exactly okay, where the hell am I right now? And that's why, man's got to know his limitations, right? And if you don't know something, fess up. And I'm just like, dudes, let me know when it's safe to jettison, because the way the Marine Corps FAC A, that backseater. They're keeping complete battlefield situational awareness on where units are and stuff. And I know that guy, Major Cronin, is going to know a lot better where friendlies are and when I can jettison than I will. And
the FAC A is your forward air controller airborne. He's in an OV-10. He in a Bronco?
They were in a
Hornet. Hornet. Okay. Yeah. So they're Hornet. And so he's the guy calling in airstrikes on various elements. Okay.
He was controlling us. So he said, hey, you're clear now. Jettison the bombs. And they said, all right, hey, we'll get you back to a Tanajeeb. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to make it that far. Let's go for Ahmed El Jaber. Because I remember Al Jaber field there. We were going to use that as a forward operating base of the Harriers if we were going to end up going into Baghdad. Because, we didn't know how this thing was going to play out long term.
Yeah.
So we'd bombed the piss out of one runway. And with the other one, we'd left open. But Saddam had put some barricades on it or something. So I said, hey, if you guys can head that way and fly ahead and tell me which runway's open. And so we got close. They shot ahead. Some light the burners shot ahead. And he's like, all right, you're right. The one runway, the western one is open. They got some barricades. They got no sweat, dude. I can land in between them. I'm in a freaking Harrier. So I roll in on final, and I go to put the gear down, and the gear don't come down. So the outriggers stay up. Nose and main kind of drop with some gravity, but I'm not getting any down and locked. So I use that emergency pneumatic system to try to blow them down, and the systems doesn't, nothing changes. I said, what do you guys see? That says, well, it looks like your nose and main are down, but your outriggers definitely aren't. But I'm not getting down and locked on any of them. I think they just kind of fell with some gravity, but they're probably just still hanging there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
what kind of speed are you flying?
Well, I'm slowing down now, turning in. So I'm probably, I'm below probably 200 knots.
Okay.
I'm setting up for I kind of entered like a base leg, and I'm turning in on final. I think, well, I'll do a vertical landing. So I start feeding the nozzles in, and of course the right rear hot nozzle doesn't move. It's jammed. So 3 nozzles go down. The one doesn't. So as you guys know, I get a lot of yaw, because the one nozzle on the right side is yawing the plane.
Yep.
And the rule in the Harrier is what? You put the nozzles in, it does something funny, put them back where they were.
Put them back. Yeah.
Yep. Put them back. So I put them back out, and I turn down. I go, all right, well, that's not going to work, but maybe I can do some type of RVL, rolling vertical landing or something like that. I'm kind of sitting there going, this plane is flying, and it's a weapon system, and I'm responsible for it. And, I don't want to, lose it. So I turn back around. I tell the guys, so I'm on downwind, and I'm kind of talking to these guys. Hey,
Are you still on fire? Are you still on fire at this point?
Finally, it's the right wing is burned out now, so the right flap is gone. And here's something else. Remember, you don't want to know something else? Composite wings, they don't weaken with heat. Remember what happened?
Yeah.
The AC-130 got on fire. That wing folded because metal weakens with heat.
Yeah.
And God bless McDonnell Douglas and the engineers. That wing didn't lose any structural integrity due to fire and heat. It's
just made it harder, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. A little more heat. Thing's not going to bend at all now. Yeah. So, I mean, there's another case. I mean, tragic. We lost, 13 people in the AC-130. Wing caught on fire. That metal weakened, folded up. Everybody died. So here I am. The flaps completely burned away. Salt told me that later. He was above me. He said, yeah, you just had a big square missing in your wing where the flap burned away. But I said, man, the wing was fine. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm kind of on approaching a beam, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to try this, see what happens. And about this time, the hydraulics finally bleed out completely. The plane pitches up, rolls over. And when I, remember they taught us to elevate our head 12 degrees for an ejection. And,
okay.
But so I do that. And as I kind of look up, all I see is a sand dune. I go, shit, hope the freaking seat works. So I pull the handle and I go out in the low altitude, low airspeed mode. So for the listeners, the Harrier had 4 ejection modes. The low altitude, low airspeed mode was designed to save the pilot if you were in a stabilized in a 50, 60 foot hover, that you would be able to, when the plane, something went wrong, you would be able to get punched out of the plane and get a swing in the parachute before you hit the ground. So I'm slow enough because I forget when the low speed mode kicked in. It was, I think, around 200 some knots. So I'm below 200 knots.
Yep.
And I'm obviously low. I think when I rolled, I was about 900 feet or something. And so when I punched, I talked to the engineers later, and they kind of figured out I was about 850 feet inverted, 30 degrees nose down. And so I go out, and engineers later told me, said, about 139 feet out, you got seat man separation based on your weight and everything. So I pull the handle, heads up, big flash from the det cord that's around the canopy. So we go straight out. So unlike Goose and Top Gun, we don't have to wait for the canopy to clear. The detonation cord blows a hole. We go right through it.
Right through it.
Yep. Yeah. Off we go. And if that doesn't work, there's a spike behind our seat that'll make
You're going anyway, bro.
Blow
or no blow.
There you go. So shoot out, seat man separation. It's very high G. I remember looking at my feet, seeing a flame, thinking to myself, why am I looking at my feet? I was just looking up a second ago, but I think 30 G's will do that to you. So I flame in my plane as I'm leaving it. And there's a plane upside down. There's the sky, and I'm heading down towards the ground.
That's
seat
crazy.
man separation. And then, of course, flying through the air, and the spreader gun goes off to spread the parachute. And that was probably one of the most violent things, because now you're going, that way, 150 miles an hour, and the parachute suddenly opens, and man, that snaps the shit out of you. So I hit, now I'm going spinning sideways, going around, and as I'm kind of spinning, kind of out of control, I actually see the plane hit, and I see this explosion. I go, there's my freaking plane hitting, which at least gave me SA, because I'm like, okay, the runway's to my east, the plane is to the south, because I was trying to land kind of to the north. And I'm like, that's the way I want to go. And anyway, so I stopped, kind of stabilize there, and go through I remember IROC, inflate your raft. It was the acronym we learned when we went out.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Check the canopy, release your raft, do your options, make sure your canopy is okay, and so on. But the options are like, visor down, mask on or off, gloves on or off, that type of stuff. And I don't have a lot of time to do the options, but I just make sure the canopy's good. I look down and go, shit, here comes the ground. So eyes on the horizon. Shit, they taught you. And I tell you what, man, training is amazing. You guys remember we're sitting in Pensacola going through AI, and they had us, jumping off the thing and landing on the wrestling mats and rolling.
Doing the PLS.
I'm telling you, that shit went through my mind. And I'm like, look at the horizon, point your toes, bend your knees,
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Training, baby.
Yeah.
Training.
I think back to, real quick to interrupt, sorry. I think back to our show with Tammy Jo, Bonnie. And she's the one that did Southwest 1380 when the engine exploded and the woman got sucked halfway out and was killed, sadly. And it turned out that airplane was a whole lot less controllable than, it wasn't just a single engine recovery. It was bad. Well worth listening to her, how she got that. But she said that very thing. She goes, adrenaline doesn't give you super knowledge for no apparent reason, but it gives you an amazing recall.
Absolutely right. And
I was like, wow, okay.
And you get time compression too, which I'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
So you go through this stuff, and it comes back like yesterday. And so when I hit the wind, I'm sitting going, okay, this is good. The wind's blowing me sideways. I'm going to roll. This is going to work out just fine. And right above the ground, wind shift, and I turn, and I'm going nose on. And I'm like, oh, this is going to hurt. So kind of pull my knees a little higher, grab the risers, and as right as my feet hit, I pull as hard as I can and try to twist to land on my side. And I just plow into the freaking ground. Luckily, it was sand. And
oh, man.
Now, remember when they threw us in the pool in Pensacola?
Yes.
I'm guessing it wasn't nice and cool and relaxing like the pool in Pensacola. Just a guess.
Pull on one of the risers and it flips you over.
Yes.
Dude, the pool went right back in my brain. I pulled on the riser, flipped me onto my back, and I reached up, grabbed the coke fittings, and popped them. And man,
because you're getting drugged. You're getting drugged across the ground. Yes.
Yeah. So then I just lay there for a second, and it's an interesting change because one moment, King Kong in the most advanced, aerospace technology mankind has produced.
Yeah, man.
Right outside that canopy, it's 1 million BC.
It's harsh.
Now you're laying there on the ground, and it's all quiet all of a sudden, and I'm laying there thinking, and you feel very exposed. And up until this time, you guys know we'd lost every Harrier guy had been POW or killed, and I'm laying there going, okay, how's my body feel? It's like it feels okay. Yeah. And I kind of sit up and I look around, and there's a chute blowing away. I go, remember what they taught us in SEER school? So I go, well, I don't have to bury my parachute. It's going to be long gone.
Yeah.
I didn't turn the ELT off, though. I didn't think to do that.
Oh.
And I released the seat pan, remember that clip, and I got rid of that.
Yep. ELT is your emergency locator transmitter, sending out a radio signal. Pick me up here. Look at me. Look at me. Hey, enemy.
That too. Yeah. So I just think, I got to get moving. And I sit up, and I'm kind of by the infantry trenches, which were by the airfield. So I pull out my trusty Glock, and I run over and jump into a trench and be like, why are you carrying a Glock 17? And if you guys remember the Beretta 92s were all breaking?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so we were authorized to carry anything we wanted. And I went online, did a little research, and read about this new Austrian gun that looks like it's pretty reliable, shoots in the mud. Remember, it was the plastic gun, but I'm like, what? I think this thing's going to be pretty good for me. And it only weighs, you only got 5 pounds of survival gear. So Glock 17 with the spare magazine is 2.5 pounds. I go, well, I got 34 rounds and weighs 2.5 pounds. Give me 200 pounds of other crap. So anyway, jump in the trench. So I do my little best World War I imitation to clear a trench. There's no one in it. Well, that worked out well. And I get on the radio now, and I call the F-18 Delta, because we're on, what's that? On guard 243. Then we switch over to the rescue, and I tell them, hey, they're like, how you doing? I go, hey, I'm here. I'm going to start feet south. So, let's get the search and rescue going. They said, good luck. I'm like, Semper Fi, off I go.
We're all counting on you.
Yeah. I jump out, and I look around, and I made my way south. And of course, what's in front of infantry trenches? The barbed wire.
Sure.
And so run the barbed wire, and I'm like, all right, I got to get through this. But what's going to be in front of the barbed wire?
Minefield. Yes.
So
is that a problem?
Yeah. So I kind of make my way through the concertina wire. I get through that, and I go, well, this is where the freaking minefield is. And I'm looking around, and you can see the anti-tank mines. They just kind of threw those on the ground. They're pretty big. And I can see a couple. And remember the anti-person mines had those like 3 little fingers sticking up?
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw 1 or 2 of those. I go, okay, shit, I got to find my way. So I literally am just walking along like the front of the concertina wire, barbed wire. And dude, what do I run into? A piece of white tape heading out. And I go, son of a bitch, that's engineer tape. And as we know, because every Marine's an infantry officer,
Yes, that's
engineer
right.
guys play that tape, they put in a minefield, and they walk up and down that. And I go, son of a bitch, that's my path out of here. And I get on this thing. And it also goes through my mind to go, this tape looks kind of new. And so anyway, I go, fuck it. I'm walking on this thing. And I head out on this freaking tape. I'm going, I'm having this vision of like, being freaking, Rifleman Doyle here, with his little El Alamein, and going through, with my bayonet looking for damn, things trying to crawl my way out of this thing. And I'm like, son of a bitch, off I go. So I get through this thing and I run to the end of it and I keep going a little further. I look around and it doesn't look like this soil's been moved. I go, God damn, I'm through the goddamn minefield. And so things are going well for me at this point.
Sure.
And the luck changes at points. Anyway, I keep heading south and I see some personnel down there and I get back on the radio. Tanker and Salter back at the F-18 and Salter back at the tanker. I say, hey, man, I've made my way south a ways. Can you guys come back? I got personnel and vehicle to my south. And I don't recognize them because here's why I didn't recognize them. They were wearing the mop gear from European Command, so it was green. So they got like green legs and legs, but they got the tan vest because they got the desert. And I'm looking at the uniform as that.
Right.
And so these guys come back. So I kind of lay low. They come back out of the tanker. They overfly and they kind of know where I'm at. And, you think you've gone 2 miles, which is a long ways. But, from a guy in the air, that's like this far, And so they go back to the air, and they overfly it, scared the shit out of these guys, by the way. And they saw the inverted V on a Humvee, and they said, those guys are friendlies. Make your way to them. So I found out later this was the patrol from one of the task forces of the Marines that was coming up behind. They had already blown through this. So that actually was Marine engineer tape. And one of the Army units had shot through going deep. And this was like the infantry that was coming up to secure the flanks. And they were coming up looking for the breaching area. And they had seen a plane crash and that their platoon commander said, hey, keep an eye out. Maybe the pilot got out. So I'm out there and I see this guy run. So I take the camouflage off my helmet. So now I got the white reflective tape and I wave it and I yell, U.S. Marine. Sure enough, freaking Lance Colby comes running up, huffing and puffing in mop level 3. And
poor bastard. You're out there in a flight suit with your helmet off, and he's in mop gear.
Mop gear is oriented protective posture, so that's gear. And level 3 is everything except your mask. So the
it's like wearing a Glad bag.
It's horrible. Charcoal filtered coveralls, man. It's horrible.
Yeah. Big old Marine, and he's the SAW gunner, the squad automatic weapon gun, which is heavy. And he runs up and I tell him, he's, hey, sir, we were looking for you. Or, they told us to look out for you. And I said, well, here we are. And he goes, we start talking. He goes, we got to get out of here. That airfield is full of Iraqis. We bypassed them. I'm like, got it. I'm following you. So make my way.
Hold on. I think you just glossed over something there. What airfield?
The airfield that you try to land at?
Yeah, exactly.
The airfield that you ejected over?
Yes.
The one that you ran through the trench, clearing the trench? That airfield? Are we talking about that one, Vapor?
They draw the nice little line like, here's the forward line of troops. But that's just where, the front line looked more like that, not like that.
Yeah, some more like fingers than a line. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, I'm like, ooh, maybe good I didn't end up there. So I get with this Humvee and we drive south. I think it was Task Force Shepherd, and they're standing there waiting for the orders to kick off. And so I, meet the, CO standing there and the OPSO and Intel guy and says, hey, can you give us an update? And I'm like, yeah. I said, you head up that way. And I told him what was up in front of them and gave him a good assessment of what was up there and what it looked like. And then 2 Hueys coming in land, and they were issuing orders by courier. They weren't, I don't know why they weren't doing it on radio. Maybe they thought they'd be intercepted. So 2 Hueys land, give them their orders. They pack up and they're like, hey, you want to go with us? And I'm like, I'm the only dude here not in mop level 3. They're joking with me, obviously. And good luck, skipper, and off we go. And so they take off and I look at the Huey guys and they said, hey, we called the DASC. They'll get someone up here to come pick you up. So I just go sit down and hang out with the 2 Huey guys. And that's when it first kind of hit me when I stopped moving that I think the adrenaline finally stopped, and then I realized, man, I'm pretty freaking sore.
That was my next question. Though this whole time I'm like, what? Nobody gets through an ejection without some kind
Yeah,
of.
I had later on found I had compression fractures in L3 and L4. Remember the dorsal harness buckle? That felt like somebody just took a baseball bat and punched me in the sternum. You ever heard your sternum? You know, it hurts to breathe because your sternum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of taller, and so I, pushed my feet out when I ejected. So the tops of my feet caught the forward part of the canopy. So my feet are now starting to like, shit, these things ache. And I'm like, I hope I didn't break a bone in those things. So I'm a little beat up now. It's starting to set in. So I'm just sitting on the Huey.
Oh, man.
And about 45 minutes go by, and all of a sudden the radio kicks on, and they say, we got orders to move. And I said, well, shit, I'm just going to go with you guys. I figuring, we had really high casualty estimates, and I thought, man, these guys are busy doing medevac, casevac, and I'm doing fine relatively, obviously. So I just jump in with these guys, and the freaking gunner, it's got a 50 cal mod deuce. He says, hey, sir, you want to be my A gunner? I'm like, sure, tell me what to do. So I hook up, and he's like, well, there's the spare ammo, and just keep feeding if I run out. I'm like, roger that, buddy. And so we take off. That was Toad's Wild Ride. Those Huey guys, lead was probably at about 25 feet. We're dash 2. I'll bet we're at 50 feet, and we're whipping across the battlefield. I'm going, this is pretty badass. And the freaking gunner looks at me, and he's like, hey, sir, it looks like you guys been dropping a lot of duds. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, look at all those bombs out there. He's looking at
the cases, the shells,
from the Rockeye.
And I'm like, dude, I go, that's clamshells from Rockeye. And he goes, they're all over the place. And I tell you, dudes, every time we flew by a revetment with arty or tanks, there was Rockeye there. No shit. Every trench we went by, black marks on the ground from the napalm. And I'm like, so I was kind of going, man, we did some freaking work up here.
Yeah.
Anyway, we go back, and they're going back. These guys are General Myatt's like freaking helos. And General Myatt is the CG of 1st Mardiv. And so we go land back at the combat post, which is by the Bergen oil fields. And we land there. And as we land, I'm looking out, and I'm seeing all these freaking APCs, armored personnel carriers, Iraqi ones, on like a dozen of them. And we land. I go, what the frick happened here? And the gunner said, oh, yeah, they'd been attacked earlier that day. And some Cobras and had lit them up. And I think they had some LAVs with tows, a tube launched optically tracked weapon. It's an anti-tank weapon. And they lit these dudes up. I mean, it was at least a dozen. And so I'm going, shit. So we land there, and I'm sitting there, and these guys run off to do their thing. And so I'm just kind of sitting in the Huey kind of going, God, like I said, starting to feel a little achy. And anyway, this one guy walks by me, and he looks at me, he goes, what are you doing? Because like I said, I'm in a G suit and torso harness, carrying my helmet, and everybody is in MOP level 3, with an infantry helmet. Yeah. And now I'm standing there, and the guy comes up to me, and no shit, he's the division air officer. And I don't remember his name, but he's a colonel. And he says, what are you doing here? And I said, well, these guys picked me up. I'm a Harrier pilot, Mag 13 forward, flying out of here. We're doing some missions. And I told him what I was doing. And so we talked a little bit. And what he does? He looks at me and he says, come with me. You need to meet the general. And I'm sitting there thinking, Captain Numbnuts here, who just got his ass shot down because he's a freaking knucklehead. And you want me to go talk to the commanding general of the division in the middle of freaking combat? And I'm like, what? And he just says, he goes, the general needs to see you. And I'm like, okay. Later on, when you have a moment to reflect, you thought the strategic level this guy was thinking at. Anyway, so marches me up, and there's that AAV, that amphibious assault vehicle, command and control with all the antennas sticking out of it.
Yes.
Makeshift table. And I look, and I see the old guy, the old gray-haired guy, and I'm like, that's got to be him. 2 phones in his ears. In the chaos of battle, there's organization to it. I mean,
right?
He's talking, barking orders. People are coming and going. And the division officer holds me, and he's waiting for a break. He goes, okay, now. and he walks up when things kind of calm, when he, takes one phone out of his ear. He goes, General, he goes, I want you to meet a Harrier pilot. And he turns and looks at me. And at that point, I had a realization that he's not looking at vapor. He's looking at a Marine jet pilot. And
Right.
at that point, I represent every flyboy he's ever run into in an O Club his entire career. And, we make fun of each other and we tease each other. But, here's one of these guys that gets flight pay, that hangs out in a flight suit, drinks at an O Club. And it just kind of dawned on me that that's what he's looking at right now.
Yeah.
And the division air officer says, this guy just got shot down, repeated what I had told him. He said, attacking an armored unit that was attacking the left flank at second Mardiv. And when we just picked him up, and he's like, he looks at me and he goes, how you doing? And I'm thinking, how am I doing? What do you
How you doing?
to the commanding general of a Marine infantry division in the middle of combat, who obviously had just fought off a counterattack, of armed personnel carriers at his command post, and he didn't evacuate. And I'm like, am I going to look at this guy and say, oh, my pussy hurts, and could you get me to the freaking hospital? No.
My foot sore. My foot sore, General.
Or, how many Marines have you lost this morning? Is what's going through my mind. And this kind of hits me. I have a little this epiphany, and he's looking at me with very intense eyes. And I just told him, I said, I'm doing good. I'm grateful to your Marines that picked me up. And I said, and we're doing our best to support you. And he said, yeah. He said, you guys are doing good work. And he said, and he made a comment like my casualties are low, or he made a comment he's made a comment like we're ahead of schedule. We're the operation's ahead of schedule. It's going well. You guys are doing, and he was favorable to us. And I found out later, I actually looked this up later, that his division got hit on 42 times by Iraqi artillery. 28 times their counter battery artillery took out the Iraqis. The other 14 times it was Harriers that took out the artillery that was hitting his units.
Nice.
I'll bet he already knew that at that time. And so he looks at me and he goes, well, we kind of talk about it, and he's thanking me. Here's a 2-star freaking general, dumb shit captain, and he's thanking me for what we're doing. He said, what can I do for you? And I'm thinking,
tall redhead.
there's only one answer here. And and you guys know, I mean, any other Harrier guy would have said the same thing. I said, sir, if you get me back to my base, I can get back in a Harrier, and I can get back to work supporting you. And he just gave me this look, put out his hand, vice grip, said, then Skipper, we're going to get you back to your base. And he looks, while he's holding my hand in his death grip, he looks at the Huey guys and he says, you get him back to his base so he can get back in a Harrier. And he looks back at me and says, Semper Fi. He says, I'm kind of busy now. No shit.
Shit hot. That is outstanding.
And I'm telling you, he didn't hit me then. Years later, you look back when you're a little more senior and you have that time for reflection. And I just thought to myself, this is that bond. This is why.
This is what is the Marine bond. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like he looked at me and thought, and that division air officer dragging me up there to say he needs to see that there's, a jet jock who just got shot down trying to protect his Marines and support him. And when I said, we need to fly so I can support you, that's what we exist for.
Yeah.
His Huey guys. I mean, because when I got to the Huey guys, they go, what are we going to do? And he said, you heard the general. We're getting you back to your base. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Yeah. And anyway, in that moment, like I said, I look back on that later and I thought, 2-star general. I said, I'll bet, he said, I met this Harrier guy and he got shot down supporting us. This is why we have fucking Marine Air. This is why we're not going to rely on other people, because these guys are going to do what it takes. And you guys know,
Yeah.
there's not a Harrier pilot out there that wouldn't have said the same thing and done the same thing. And that's what makes us special with that air ground team, you know? And I'm just like, holy crap. So the Huey guys, like, get in, let's go. And they fly me back to Lonesome Dove, which was their forward base, aptly named. And then I hop a 53 ride, CH-53 helicopter ride, back to Tanagy because that was their main base and the Harrier forward base. It's nighttime now. It's been a long day. They dropped me off the southern end where they're at. Harrier's up in the northern end. So I can't see. Everything's darked out because, you know, it's, they're worried about Scud missiles and shit like that. So everything's blacked out. So I'm walking up the AM2 matting, you know, with they built the runway out of. I'm walking along, kind of tired, sore. And I hear like the clacking, you know, when you drive on that stuff, how that it clacks.
Yeah.
Right.
Clacking, and I turn around and I hear an engine and I jump off the damn runway right as this freaking Humvee whips by me, obviously lights out. I'm thinking, son of a bitch.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Just
Survive getting shot down only to get run over by a damn Humvee.
Dude, exactly. I'm like, we're going to go, how the frick did Vapor's body get here?
Yeah.
And that chicken shit he was hiding out here got hit by a freaking Humvee circling right. I go, I'm not getting back on that damn runway. So I walk through, stand up the way, get to maintenance control. I'm like, hey, man, good to see you.
Sorry, I broke your jet.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
We'll do it again. Anyway, they give me some
Jet. Hey, you going to maintenance control? Your jet's down.
Yeah. Hey, that jet's down, bro. I can tell you where it's at, you know, but I don't. It's gonna need some serious work.
So anyway, I sleep there that night, and you know, they had some Scud missile launch. He come with, sir, we got to go to MOP level 3, and it ain't bravado. I was just freaking tired. I look at the guy, I'm like, dude, I go, it's my numbers up at this point. Yeah. My numbers up. I'm like, I'm really tired, and they're like, oh, he's so brave. I'm not freaking brave. I was just lazy and tired. So the next morning, wake up, hop in a pickup truck, making a parts run back to King Abdulaziz.
Speaking of parts.
Yeah, head down there, and I get back to the main base, go to maintenance control there, and I'm back, and nice welcome home. I talked to the skipper, went up, talked to Colonel Biote, you know, great gentleman, sat down, asked, you know, what happened. He said, hey, I'm really glad to get you back. What do you want to do? I told him the General Myatt story. I said, sir, I got to fly. I told General Myatt, you know, that's why he got me back. He goes, all right. And no shit, they put me on the schedule the next day. Of course.
No shit.
Yeah, but of course, I get back to the squadron, and Doc Barron's like, hey, where's your medical thing from being on the USS Mercy? They heard I got picked up and I was on the hospital ship. I go, dude, I wasn't on a hospital ship. I mean, they go, what have you been doing for a day and a half? I go, planes, trains, and automobiles, trying to get freaking home. And holy shit, you can't go anywhere. Throws me down, won't let me stand up. They send me to the freaking medical center. They x-ray the crap out of me. I'm sitting there going, oh, God. Mom Walsh is not going to have any grandchildren now. Just been radiated. Everything's dead. My testicles are probably fried.
Right.
So I'm like, all right. And I sit up, and the guy's like, well, you know, you're down. You're not going to fly again. I go, what do you mean I'm going to fly again? He goes, you got L3, L4 fractures. I go, and? He goes, if you eject again, it's going to collapse. I looked at the guy, and I said, what are the odds? I mean, we had flown 3,000 sorties at that point.
Right.
We had like 3 guys ride the Silk. That's 1 in 1,000. I mean, no other Harrier guy would have said anything differently. And apparently, he called down to Doc Barron. They said, that fucking captain said, what are the odds? I'm like, going, well,
yeah.
That's almost a show title, too. We got a bunch of show titles today.
Oh,
Maintain the ejection position. What are the odds? Meeting the general.
Yeah, and I tell the guy, I said, look, you give me a downshift, I'm going to rip it up when I get back to base. I said, because Colonel Biote said, I'm going to fly, and I'm going to freaking fly, because that's what I told freaking General Myatt, and I'm not going to freaking go back on my word to a 2-star infantry general in the middle of freaking war. Yeah. And the guy just looked at me disgustedly and said, get out of here. So I go back. God bless them. They put me on the schedule. Me and Rosie are taxiing out the next day, about to head out. We're at the hold short line, and they freaking come down, cancel all Harrier ops because Marine Corps objectives have been achieved. And now I got that highway to hell thing. And now we basically got too many aircraft for the airspace, and they canceled our stuff. So taxi back in. I go, shit. And then Dog calls me in, and he says, hey, you're flying tomorrow. I'm like, oh, thanks. I'm thinking to myself, must be some weird mission. So I just kind of, walk away, and I look back at him and I go, what's the mission? He goes,
to make sure you don't weep like a baby when you get back in the plane. I go, what? He goes, these pussies, they're worried about you, so you got to go fly the plane tomorrow. I'm like, by myself? He goes, yeah. I go, what am I supposed to do? He goes, I don't give a shit. He goes, just fly around and show them you're not a pussy. I'm like, okay. So the next day, I'm the only Harry that launches from frickin' King Abdulaziz. So what's out?
Do some pattern work. Yeah. Some macro.
All the DAS, they're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just doing a fan flight. They're like, oh. And they're like, what's your, I go, I don't have a loadout or anything. So I fly around a little bit, come back into the pattern. And of course, a couple of the guys pick up the LSS.
Landing Site Supervisor.
Yep.
Bingo. Thank you for that acronym help. And so there, of course, now you got what? You got all your best friends
watching you.
Bingo, dude. And that's the last thing you want. So I come around, I land, I hear this long, fast, slow, call.
Right.
I'm like,
and the Russian judge says,
I'm like, hey, I'm trying to, regain my confidence. They're not helping at all.
Yeah, this isn't helping, boys.
More critique. I do a vertical landing, more critique. Just kind of going, okay, I've had enough of this fucking fun. So I land, taxi, and we all, but you know what it is. All your brothers are there. They're all supporting me and stuff. And dude, I'm like, I'm doing good. And, no other place I'd rather be than, maintenance control with all those dudes hanging around. And, why are they hanging around? They were all wondering, hey, how's Vapor doing?
Yeah.
And I'm doing fine. And they were all there because guys ain't hanging out.
Yeah. Wow.
Hey,
so,
great.
Just a great testament to the brotherhood that we all share. And it's pretty awesome.
And now listen, I have a very serious question to ask.
Yeah.
It's very serious. How did the combat mustache survive through all that? Was there any singe marks from the det cord? Because the picture of you with your combat mustache, it is marvelous. It is magnificent.
Yeah.
That had to slow you down a little bit when you came out, right?
It added a little bit of aerodynamics.
There it is. There's the picture.
I gotta tell you one last thing, and this will be quick because I know we're running along. Is they let me call home, and they said, "Hey, we'll get you. This is the day. This is pre-cell phone crap. So
Right.
go to the big satellite center, and they said you get to call home and let your parents know you're okay." And my mom is a school teacher in Walnut Creek, California, at Merwin.
Oh, I know Walnut Creek. I got family there.
And are you ready for this? At her school, her coworker, a younger teacher, her brother flew Apaches in Desert Storm and was shot down the same day.
How'd he come out of the thing?
At school, got notification that two teachers both had, one a son, one a brother, shot down the same day. No shit. His name was. I actually talked to my mom about to make sure I had my story straight before I got on with you guys. His name was Captain Mike Klingel, and he was a Apache guy. And when I said, "Mom, is that right?" She goes, "Yeah, same day." I'm like, "What are the frickin' odds?"
Well, how did he come out of it?
He and his warrant officer, they went down like they got hit, controlled landing,
Okay.
And the helo guys, the other guys in their company picked them up and got them out of there.
Awesome.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
isn't that crazy? Small world. Man.
Wow.
Yeah,
it is
dude.
a small world.
I wouldn't want to paint it, but boy, is it small.
No kidding. Wow.
Well,
we
thank
gotta
you.
land this plane soon.
Yeah, we do,
Thank
dude. We've
you.
been talking a long time. My bladder's full. Holy shit. Thank you.
I think we still make this one show. This is great. No breaking this up.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your service, for what you did for your fellow Marines, for those, especially those guys on the ground, but for all of us. We really appreciate it.
Right back at you guys.
Yeah.
I think we got a great brotherhood, and the Marine Corps brotherhood is great. It's a great fraternity, but then you even get smaller into our little Harrier world. And the great, we've all known each other now for, obviously we separate, come back together, but shit, the Harrier reunion was a great time. And, we're sitting there in the airport, and, my fiance, Lisa Brown, great lady. And, I brought her out there for it. And, we were sitting there with Fig in the frickin' airport, as we were,
Good times, buddy.
Great reconnecting with you guys. And man, I love your podcast. I love the Lawman one,
Yeah.
Blue Angels. And
We're going to record with Lawman in about half an hour.
no way. That's
yeah.
awesome.
He's coming on.
When
So
you
come
open up
watch us.
Encyclopedia and you see like Great American, you got
Yeah.
lawmen right there, and of course right next to him is a Trey Wilborn. He's our
Yep.
squadron mate we lost over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell you stories about that too. That was
Well, we're going to have you back for that.
You got
Absolutely.
too
Gotta have
many
you back.
stories, that are untold.
Way more good
so
stuff to go. Yeah.
Will you
So-
come back? Will you come back, Vapor?
it would be an absolute honor.
Oh, well, that's awesome. I'm glad. to
This
hear
just
that.
fills my heart with joy getting to sit and chat with
I know,
all
right?
manner of aviators, but it's particularly fun to chat with the guys that were near our era. And
We're all Cherry Point guys, man.
yeah. So
much better V-stall operators than the Yuma boys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm just throwing that out there.
all weather.
Absolutely.
All weather
They saw
attack.
clouds
Yeah.
in the sky, they logged the .2. You're like,
Right. Exactly. So,
right.
all right. Well, we need to throw some other thank yous out there, too. Can you think of any off the top of your head, Fig?
How about Dave Hamilton and the Matt Geek Gab?
Absolutely. He also does the Gig Gab and the Business Brain for musicians and entrepreneurs. We have a glossary on our website, so therewas.us/glossary. If we didn't manage to circle back on some of these acronyms today, let us know. We'll tell us what you want to hear, and we'll get it up, or which acronym, that's the word I was looking for. Don't get old, it's bad for your memory. Which acronym you want to grab and have us put on the glossary, we will do it for you. You can email us. Fig, you got an email here, don't you?
Yeah, it's Fig at .us.
Perfect. Mine's repeated, so there I was.us, because I'm so clever. We got a merch page. If you're watching the video, you can see the cool hat that Fig and I are wearing, the cool shirt I'm wearing. Guests are going to get one of these. I don't know if it's coming up because I'm not looking at that screen right now, but we get koozies now. Bikinis. Get your girl a bikini.
That's right. You got to have a So There I Was bikini. They're pretty hot. You'd look good in one, Vapor.
Ooh.
Lisa would look better in one, so
Yeah.
I'll
I don't think these have room for a tuck. Just saying. But, go back to Japan and get one of those cold pools and you won't need it.
this is not TC, baby.
Oh, it's gone. It's over.
It's over.
We're canceled now, baby.
It's over, baby.
Man. Yeah.
We had a good run, though. 61 episodes. Woo!
Right on. So, oh, man. And you can get that at sothereIwas.us/merch, MERCH.
How about Patreon?
Patreon.
We got some new pilots on Patreon.
We do. What are their names?
Let's see. Hawktard, a.k.a. Adam, and Chris Blaine. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for stepping up and throwing some fuel in the engine to help keep that engine running for us. We really, really appreciate that. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. I'm thinking there may be one or two other people. What's the word for two in Spanish?
I think, I'm not real good, but dos comes to mind. And I think what you're talking about is what I'm hearing in my ears. That's the two F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good. Dos
do indeed.
Dos Gringos.
And thank you to those gentlemen for coming on our show and for allowing us to use their music for our show. It's truly an honor, and we appreciate your service, gentlemen. Thank you very much. If you haven't heard the Dos Gringos, go out and get some of their music on Amazon or Spotify. It's a lot of fun, especially if you've flown any military aircraft. Their songs will come back to you and make you howl.
Howl.
Absolutely.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way.
Nuh-uh, nothing. No way.
No way.
You're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
What'd he say?
He said it's over.
Yeah, man.
See ya.
Okay, I didn't ask for your life story.
Thank you.